It's Wednesday.
Is it?
Can I turn on the radio?
Turn on the radio.
It'll be fun.
Why don't you give it a try? Have some fun.
We are gonna have fun.
Apparently they'd rather have fun.
Well, of course they would.
Okay.
It's Wednesday.
Now, I've had enough fun for one day.
Why don't you just shut your mouth and not be cynical for once?
We're entertainers. That's what we do. Come on.
Yeah, well, good luck in radio.
It's showtime.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. Well, what do you know? Everybody's putting a wrap on the Summer League and the NBA offseason, even though LeBron hasn't signed yet, and the Kawhi Leonard trade may or may not go through or may not have to be renegotiated. I think it's going to go through in some fashion. But nonetheless, guys want to go on vacation and when this is going to happen, so they'll just write it and then they can rewrite it and edit it later. Update. We got new info, got new opinions. And I found it interesting that CBS Sports has a piece out on this, and they actually ranked the Jazz as the second best offseason in the Western Conference. And not about the draft, because they specifically at the start rule out lottery luck. It was about the Walker Kessler trade. Now, I think we can all agree short-term pain, potential long-term gain. There was always going to be some short-term pain. They were going to have to decide at what moment that pain was going to come. There are too many good young players that can't all be paid. And we're seeing that right now play out in Oklahoma City. We've seen that previously play out in Boston. You make decisions not based on basketball talent. The clubs make decisions based on money. And Oklahoma City got rid of $40 million worth of salary this offseason. Took the payroll from basically $250 million to $210 million in round numbers. But in the process of cutting $40 million, they saved $224 million in luxury tax penalties. Now, you can have billions of dollars, and you'll lose some, and maybe you'll decide winning is worth writing a check. But $224 million in penalties? Wow. Well, salary and penalties. I mean, that's a number that's going to make everybody blink. I mean, who's not going to blink when they see that? Maybe the Dodgers, whose owner is now getting investigated. How did he get his money? Oh, boy. Well, we'll see where that goes. That's a separate story. So the fact that Jazz were able to get 2 unprotected draft picks and get 2 pick swaps when they were probably going to have to make that move in a year anyway. Now, in the short term, it would have been fun to see them chase 50 wins. It would have been fun to see them chase a playoff series win. And the story acknowledges this deal now makes them a team where it's hard to see playoff success happening. I mean, maybe the young guys grow up fast. Maybe you get a favorable draw and you win a series. It looks very unlikely right now. I don't even know that I think 50 wins is likely anymore. Now I think it's more get to 40, hopefully get to 45. And it's not that I think Kessler is that good but it's just what he was going to provide on this team. I think it was just really going to fit. And they may still be a pretty good defensive team without him. We were talking about this earlier, and it was that, the top 6 defensive teams in the league include the champion, the Knicks, the team that lost in the finals, the Spurs, and both number 1 seeds, the best records in the regular season, Oklahoma City in the West and Detroit in the East. So, be a good defensive team. And he was going to help them do that. Now they're going to have to pay Keontae George in a year, and if not Keontae, then somebody else. It was going to be a problem because they already have 2 $50 million guys. I think they can still be a really good defensive team, but they could have been excellent. So, but I thought it was interesting. They were given a B+, and they graded pretty hard. There are plenty of teams that got C minuses, Ds. Sacramento, break it up. I don't know what you're chasing, but you're not going to get it. But they weren't really thrilled with what Portland did in the offseason. They gave the Lakers a C- because although the Lakers made their team better, they also mortgaged their ability to make any better than it is. This is about it, unless they find some real diamonds in the rough. They got to find their Joe Ingles undrafted in Europe. They got to find their Lou Dort undrafted coming out of Arizona State. They've really got to find some diamonds in the rough. So, all right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, Bill Bender writes for the Sporting News, joined us, has a lot of opinions on the upcoming college football season, including how the Big 12 is going to shake out and who the 4 teams are that he believes will provide the 2 finalists. The other 12, they can have nice seasons, they can battle, they can fight, but he's circled 4 teams for 2 spots in the Big 12 title game. We'll talk with Bill Bender next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined now by Bill Bender from the Sporting News to talk some college football. Bill, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
Good. You know, we would really love to talk college football, but you can't talk college football these days without talking politics. That must be the most enjoyable part of your job, trying to count votes in the Senate to figure out if we're going to have a college football playoff or if we're going to have a breakaway. And what is the SEC doing? What are they doing, Bill? What do you think?
Well, you know, I think, one, it's kind of an empty gesture in some ways to me. Yes, there's always going to be Super League talk. Yes, I always find it fascinating, because the sport has different tiers, even within the Power 4 conferences, even within those conferences themselves. You mentioned it. I think in the last 3 off seasons, I've probably spent more time talking about what's going on off the field than what's going on it. And that was the case, obviously, all summer this season to this point.
Yeah, and here we are now with the SEC having its meetings and people saying, oh, the threat of them leaving, it's real. I don't know that I buy it, man, because if it's real, then do it. And it seems that it's in the talk stage. What do you forecast as far as what you hear?
Well, I don't think anything of it, at least in the short term, just because in a lot of ways it's a national sport now, right? It's no longer a regional sport where when I was growing up, you watched the Big Ten, right? You watched the Big Ten, and that was it. You knew very little about the SEC and the Big 12 and what was going out west, other than it looked nice in the winter when you saw the Rose Bowl games. But I think it's a national sport now. Who's going to watch an all-SEC league outside of the southeast part of the country? I can tell you right now, my buddies wouldn't watch it at all.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and to build on that, I would say, the interest in the sport, how it has changed is, and I, not just because it's my job, but I'm into like a Utah Texas Tech game. I'll sit there on a Friday night and watch Texas Tech play Houston now with interest, because I think part of it is twofold. Part of it is, the playoff is expanded and those kind of things, and the conferences are fun. And there's an NFL element to that where you get to know these guys to the next level. And two, I just love college football, right? What happened to just liking it? It's never going to be like it was in 1984, 1994, or even 2004. But it doesn't mean that the sport on the field isn't pretty cool.
Right. When the ball goes up, we tend to forget about all the other nonsense.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that's the case this year, because all of these conferences have fun storylines. Like, for example, at SEC, you've got Lane Kiffin at LSU is a very interesting storyline to me, right? Like, I know the way that he left Ole Miss and the way that he came to LSU, there's a ton of pressure on the Tigers. I know that game in September. Again, that's another example. Like, I'm excited to watch LSU play Ole Miss. Now, granted, the reason why is I want to see Lane Kiffin walk into that stadium and see how it goes. But it's just another example of why this sport has gone national and why that's good.
LSU, Texas, in the SEC title game would pit 2 guys who worked together for Norm Chow at USC and who both tried their luck at USC and it didn't work. I think there's a million storylines if we can get to that point. We'll see if they're good enough to get to that point. Somebody like Georgia might mess that up. But here I am on this side of the country, and I watched the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12 as I've grown up, and I would love to see that. I think those two on a big stage like that would be, well, personally, I would find it hilarious, and who knows what they would say, text, or tweet to put a little extra juice on what would already be a big game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Texas, I've been asked about them a lot this summer, and I think one of the things about Texas is, of those teams that you might consider a true national championship contender, I'm talking Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Notre Dame, and those upper tier schools, Georgia. I don't want to leave out Georgia. Georgia, we're not talking about enough. Mm-hmm. I would say Texas has the most pressure on them, and specifically Sark, because they've been to the playoff 2 of the last 3 years. They've had Arch. They brought in a lot of portal additions like Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, Cam Coleman, Rasheem Biles on defense. The roster's loaded. I would anticipate when that SEC preseason pool comes out, if it hasn't already, that Texas might be picked to win the conference, if not Georgia. And so, like you said, if it were Texas Ole Miss and you had Lane and Steve, these are 2 of the best coaches in the country that haven't won a national title. But the more time it takes for them to get to that national title, the pressure is going to build.
I'm going to throw a theory at you and get your response. The transfer portal has actually created more interest, and people talk about it's the Wild Wild West and it's got to be reined in, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of publicity and attention and viewership, even if it's from the positive, you've added these transfers. You look at like Oklahoma State, right? They've sucked these last couple years amazingly. They just went in the toilet. And now they bring in the North Texas people, the coach, the quarterback, and away they go. So that's a sense of a positive. But how about the negative, too, to where I'm a Sun Devil, man. I went to Arizona State to quote the line in the movie, right? Well, you best believe there is no way I'm going to be rooting for LSU. Right? They took the quarterback. And you just mentioned Texas, Raleek Brown. He sat on the bench. He had a hamstring a couple years ago, didn't do anything. The first-string running back gets hurt early last year. They bring him in. He runs for over 1,000 yards. He takes the money. Now, I don't begrudge him taking the money. No problem at all. That's the system. If I had a kid, if it was me, and that's what you wanted to do, absolutely. But there's no way I'm going to be rooting for Texas. So right now I got 2 SEC teams that I'm going to be rooting against. So they're going to pique my interest. I'm going to see every week what they're doing. So in that regard, the transfer portal, I could argue, has created even more interest in a sport that I think is the second most popular in our country.
It's created a lot of interesting side effects, that being one, where you have quarterbacks that leave one school and then go win a Heisman Trophy somewhere else. And that rate's pretty high, honestly.
Yeah, LSU has already done that to me once before. I hate him even more. Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, LSU did it to Ohio State, too, by the way, with some guy named Joe Burrow. So
there you go.
He
I
did
loved
all
it then because I hate Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it does create interest. You know what? The other thing, I think it does create opportunities. Where I would reel it in, and I've always kind of stood on this, I do think you should be able to transfer once. And then if you transfer again, you should sit a year. And if that goes against your 5 for 5, so be it. Because I think we do live in this environment where it makes it hard to re-recruit guys. But in terms of the interest of the sport, I don't think the portal has hurt anything at all. Other than, it's kind of like what college basketball went through when guys were going to the NBA draft right away. I grew up in the 90s and 80s and 90s, and in the 90s, you had an attachment to, like, a basketball roster. Like, I can still reel off the starting 5 for, like, Arkansas in 1994, right? But you can't do that as much now. Yeah, Corliss Williamson, Scotty Thurman. I could get the, Corey Beck. That was a really good team, right? And I think that attachment is lost a little bit. But the trade-off is there is some excitement around the sport in places. I mean, Indiana's proof of that. If you guys would have told me 5 years ago, 3 years ago even, hey, Billy, Indiana's going to win the national title and they're going to dominate everybody and they're going to go 16-0, I would have told you there is no chance in that would ever happen. But Kurt Cignetti's been able to do it on a pretty accelerated timeline there, obviously.
Bill Bender joining us. He writes for the Sporting News. He is a glutton for punishment. I love the fact that you in early July have the courage to put up college football predictions for the bowl games, the 12-team playoff, and the national championship. I'm sure fan bases are all furious with you. But BYU fans, they probably like the fact you put them in the playoff over Texas Tech. Why? What do you see there?
Well, here's the thing, and here's a secret behind the curtain. When we were putting together our college football preview magazine, which is available on newsstands, shameless plug there,
nice.
We at first had Texas Tech winning the Big 12, and this was before the Brendan Sorsby debacle that took up a month of the offseason. You slide them down, and then all of a sudden, to me, it becomes, okay, this could be – Texas Tech could still win the Big 12. I think 3 other teams, BYU, Utah, and then Houston, who I really like coming off a 10-win season. Those are kind of your contenders now. I do think with BYU, you bring back L.J. Martin, you bring back a strong running game, and Bear Bachmeier started to throw the ball a little bit better towards the end of the season. He had 325 yards in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Combine that with the defense. And, Utah, the one thing there is obviously the coaching staff. They're a little bit of a shakeup, not a little bit when Kyle Whittingham leaves. But I'm telling you, Houston, Willie Fritz has got them on the right page, and they've got two really good quarterbacks in Connor Wigman and Keyshawn Henderson. So that's that top tier of the Big 12 with schools like Arizona State and Kansas State. And you mentioned Oklahoma State. They might be the most intriguing team in the Big 12 to me. Maybe not this year, but within 2 years, I think Eric Morris is going to have them going really, really, really strong.
Yeah, no question about that. I mean, that's what we're going to be interested in following there in this conference, and I think it's from my perspective, it's going to be entertaining. And also, we have another local team. We've the Wasatch Front here in Utah. We've expanded our local connection to Ann Arbor, Michigan, for obvious reasons, right? I mean, their coaching staff, their players, and so forth, and Kyle Whittingham, who we've all known for many, many years in this market. He's been such a staple. I don't even have to say it anymore. You already know that. Michigan, very tough schedule. The AD stepping down and all this stuff. Kyle just brought in to clean it up. What do you make of that entire situation that he is now obviously eyeball deep in?
Well, I think for the last 5 off seasons, we've had a Michigan story that wasn't a good one. Whether it was a recruiting scandal or a sign stealing scandal or what happened with Sharon Moore and now Ward Manuel. And I think within the administration, the cleanup is underway. The one thing they won't have to worry about is on the football field, you have a serious man, right? A serious coach. And I think he's going to bring a little bit of maturity to a roster and a program that maybe didn't have that last year. And I would say this. So Michigan went 9-3 last year, and they lose to Oklahoma on the road, USC on the road, and Ohio State comes in and beats them. If Michigan goes 9-3 this year against that schedule you mentioned, where they're playing Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. They're playing Oklahoma. If they do that, I think the vibe around the program would be completely different because it would show that Bryce Underwood developed, that their defense was okay, and that Kyle Whittingham knows what he's doing, which I think he does. I'm really interested. One layer of that, he was around that BYU-Utah rivalry for such a long time and had a good record. I don't know if you guys do it that way, but I know in Central Ohio and in Ann Arbor, I can tell you what pretty much every Ohio State or Michigan coach's record is against the other guy before I can tell you their career record. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to that rivalry because as Urban Meyer, who coached at Utah, would tell him, you're judged on that. You know what I know Urban Meyer has around here? 7-0 against Michigan.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yep.
Those coaches have gone head-to-head once. Kyle Whittingham was starting a running back in the secondary, and now Ohio State was missing NFL receivers, but they replaced them with NFL receivers. They had an NFL quarterback, and it came down to a field goal at the end of the game when the Utes lost their quarterback in the second half. Should I read into that, or bowl games one-off, it doesn't mean anything, or should I read into that Kyle Whittingham is going to figure out how to beat Ryan Day?
Well, I think you could read into one thing that I thought of when Kyle was hired was I've watched him wear out Michigan a couple times.
Yeah.
When he was at Utah. I watched him go to the Big House and wear out Michigan. I watched him do it. I believe it was Jim Harbaugh's first game.
Yep.
They went to Utah, and Utah wore them out. So he understands that element that when you play at Michigan or Ohio State, it's about the trenches. I've watched that game for 45 years. Well, maybe not when I was 1, but that game's won up front and running the football and those kind of things. That Rose Bowl, which I remember well, I would say more of a one-off, but also more of Kyle will know, hey, Ohio State's going to have receivers because, by the way, they still do. They've got a guy named Jeremiah Smith that's pretty good. But I remember that Rose Bowl more for Jackson Smith and Jigba, and look what he's done since. So, but it'll be I think he'll add a fun layer to that rivalry with Ryan Day, who, by the way, despite winning last year, people in Columbus know that he's 2-4 against Michigan. So you're judged by that game and that game a lot.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think that he understands that rivalry. Have you been able to get your hand or get a pulse on what he's been able to do recruiting? Because so many of these guys on the staff, they don't have relationships in the manner in which they had relationships here.
Well, I think Kyle will do fine. So far, it looks like their recruiting class that's coming in will be all right. It is different when you have to jump into this part of the country, too, as anything else. But if I were selling Kyle Whittingham to a recruit in this area, I would look at, the first guy I would point to in a recent example would be like a Spencer Fano, who is playing nearby with the Cleveland Browns, and I think is going to have a fantastic career. Didn't allow a sack last year. I mean, come on. He'll be able to recruit offensive line well, and that will play well in Michigan because they love their offensive linemen. You're also competing against the State, which, that's the one position of disparity. It's funny, we just talked about it. The receiver position, Ohio State's had just this litany of first-round picks at the position. Michigan hasn't had a first-round receiver since Braylon Edwards. It was like 21 years ago. So I think that's something I look at with those two programs. Does he get a couple receivers? What does Jason Beck do with the quarterback development? That's in focus right now, what he does with Bryce Underwood.
That is critical. And the one thing that I've heard is that Devin Dampier at Utah was so dialed in on that offense, which he got to run in New Mexico. So he's running it for the second year. But his decision-making was so top shelf, just excellent. And can somebody in their first year embrace it the same way? Or maybe he's such a good runner that he's going to make people look silly anyway. But that's probably the thing that most people are going to overlook is that Dampier made decisions and reads that most of us don't know about. And he made them quickly. And when they graded the film, it was always just fantastic. And so that's a high bar. If the offense is going to perform the same way, Underwood's got to be able to perform the same way.
I agree. And I think Devin Dampier, watching him last year, he was a guy that I remember we put in our Heisman sleepers just because one of the things with the Heisman was you get the guy that passes the ball, makes those decisions well, and also puts up a lot of running yards. Yep. And we knew he was going to do that. And that's the kind of the Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels theory to the Heisman. Sorry to bring up Jaden again. Didn't mean to. But when you have that quarterback that can get around 1,000 rushing yards, they'll have a chance to do it. Now, I don't know if Bryce will do that much at Michigan, but I think the arm talent, you saw it last year. It was weird. There were games and throws that he would make that it was like, okay, that's why he was a five-star guy. And then there were games where the decision-making was very tentative. And I do think some of it had to do with the guys he was throwing to. And you got to have receivers too. So it creates an interesting mix. I'm really excited to watch Oklahoma, Michigan in week 2 because as I've gone through the summer, Oklahoma's getting a lot of playoff buzz around Mateer. So, them coming up to the big house, that'll be one of those early season kind of barometers for both programs.
No question about that. We're looking forward to that game. How much pressure is on this Michigan quarterback if it doesn't get going right away because they have that big game right off the bat, week 2, I think it is. And so, they got Carr's younger brother there, and he had a nice spring for whatever that's worth. So I'm wondering what level do you think the patience is as far as the leash goes?
Well, it'll be interesting to see because, not only that, but C.J. Carr at Notre Dame, who we all know the relationship with Lloyd and, I played in the shadow of Michigan Stadium, and now he's got a chance to carry this Notre Dame team that's getting a ton of hype. And I will say it on your station as I have all summer. I think this time it's not crying wolf. It's pretty real around the Irish. I think they're going to be very, very good this year. So if that happens and Bryce Underwood fails and Tommy's sitting there behind him, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But, yeah, I think the results will be pretty good. I like the talent. I think their schedule, again, very high-level difficulty. They've got to they have Iowa coming to them. They have Penn State coming to them. Penn State's another team to watch just because their schedule's really soft. When I look at those schedules, Penn State doesn't play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. I don't know how Matt Campbell got that in his favor, but I think the Nittany Lions could hang around into November as a result.
So BYU's bitten off quite a bit with Notre Dame coming in this year is what you're saying. Circle that. Notre Dame's probably going to be undefeated when they show up here?
one of the more games that probably isn't getting talked about enough because BYU is going to be in the playoff mix. Notre Dame's obviously going to be in the mix. That's one of their circle the date games to me. They haven't played in a while, if I'm not mistaken. I remember they had a home and home a while back, and that'll add to it as well. But I think BYU having Notre Dame come in there, that's probably their biggest road game. What I saw, they've got Miami coming to South Bend. For those of us who went to Catholic school in the 80s, we remember Miami Notre Dame very well in the 80s, and it'll be cool to see. I'm actually happy that rivalry's kind of reignited a little bit.
All right, there is Bill Bender. When we come back, the Utes and Cougars, do they need to find a way out of the Big 12 to play big-time football? We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
DJ PK, the question of the morning, which is really the question of the decade. Or maybe it's a question of 2 decades.
My life.
Pretty much. Do you think a move out of the Big 12 is required for BYU and Utah to play big-time football? And I think Matt speaks for me and people of my generation when he says, I'm old enough to remember when BYU and Utah both thought being in a power football conference was a fever dream. Now we're asking if the Big 12 is big enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, Matt, but I get it. Excellent perspective. Back in the days of the WAC in the 80s and 90s, please, come on. That's a crazy thought. Getting into the Big 12 sounded awesome at that point. Sounded like it couldn't happen. I got tired of talking about it. And then it happened for the Utes in the Pac-12, and now it's happened for both of them in the Big 12.
Well, I would say since about 2015, 2016, I thought it was going to happen for BYU in the Big 12.
Yeah, I can see that. It trended that way.
Based on intense conversations and how and they had people in the Jazz organization who were working on it for them and putting together packages and all that.
There was in that era they did a presentation and the word came back that they were Team 11, but there was no Team 12, so the conference didn't make a move. But at that point, there had been so many changes in the big football leagues, and there were expected to be so many more.
It's only a matter of time.
Right, exactly. It's going to happen. Either they'll need a 10th team or they'll want to add a 12th team, and it turned out both those things happened.
Yeah.
They needed a 9th team.
Now, at no point at that time did I ever think they would be conference mates, speaking of Utah and BYU, in the Big 12, or for that matter, anywhere, because the Pac-12 had dug in, hypocritically, I might add, because they had no problem playing them.
BYU, but didn't want them in the league.
Yeah.
But it did look like it was going to settle into a Utah be in the Pac-12 and BYU will be in the Big 12. You could foresee that.
That's what I thought.
But there were so many changes that came that we couldn't foresee, including that entire league breaking up and people going to 4 different leagues. Still sounds crazy to say, but nonetheless it happened.
Yeah, and I was excited for that. Now, I always wanted them to be in there, BYU, to replace Colorado.
You were excited for what when you
to
said that?
have one be in the Pac-12, one be in the Big 12, because we dreamed of and talked about a situation where an SC would be at Rice-Eccles and at the same day
Oklahoma or Texas would be at BYU, and it sounded like, again, back to what Matt said, a fever dream.
Yeah. But I thought that was from 2016, 2015, somewhere in there, I thought that was a legitimate possibility. Mm-hmm. I felt it was only a matter of time. The BYU situation, whatever the hang-ups were for the Pac-12, you talk to Ron Feldberg and he'll say religious discrimination and so forth. The Big 12 didn't seem to be bothered by that as much. And so it was going to happen in that way, I thought. And then obviously the crumbling of the Pac-12 was shocking.
We got 1 year of the Pac-12, Big 12. And we did get it because Oklahoma came in and played BYU. But even the year it happened, we knew it was a 1-year deal.
Right, because they had already announced it.
Pac-12 was already splintering.
Well, and yeah.
And Oklahoma and Texas were on their way out, and everything was changing.
Right.
And I think that's my answer to this. Do you think a move out of the Big 12 is required for BYU and Utah to play big-time football? Not in the current setup, but if everything is going to be changing again in the way everything changed from 2015 to 2025, then the answer to that may well end up being yes. But I think that's dependent on everything changing. I think as things are set up now, you can play big-time football.
Well, we're looking ahead. It's not right today. It's not this season. We understand that. It is what's down the line. And so what we're looking for down the line, can we look to the way it was? Did they play, I guess you put the quality qualifier in there, big time enough? When they're going to the Sugar Bowl and beating Alabama, they're not viewed as big time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were. They beat Alabama, and I realized Nick Saban was in the process of getting it going.
It was year
but
two.
it was still Alabama. I am sick and tired of our teams beating big dogs
and
having
an explanation.
Yeah.
They didn't want to be there.
Right, right.
Says Dan Patrick when he comes through town doing interviews.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of whether BYU or Utah beats somebody who's really good, brand name. Maybe they're not that great that season, but yet if they get smoked, it's never, well, BYU Utah was having a down season. That it doesn't go both ways. So I'm sick of that. I'm tired of that. And that was one of the few times I was in the press box friggin' openly rooting for one of the locals. I always did it when I went to New Mexico for basketball because they sat you in like the 10th row right in the middle of the fans.
Surrounded by people who are animals.
Yes.
Screaming and throwing
and
stuff.
You had to look on the baseline over there at the Sore Rat. And
could you see the whole court, or with everybody's fans standing up, did you end up getting screamed? Because sometimes on the road I had that problem.
You'd have to stand up. I mean, because they packed the place in New Mexico. Great fan base and all. So, but we don't be like towards the end of the game they wouldn't stand up because most of it's like Arizona. Most of the fans are 65 years old.
Students are the ones who get on their feet and stay on their feet. They provide all the energy.
And then in that Sugar Bowl, that was right when I had made the transition over from hardcore, neutral at all times print, and they put me in the radio section, which was new to me at the time. And I'm over there, and I'm watching these Alabama people. And it was just so foreign to me. It's like you placed me in a situation that I had never been after having been in the business for over 20-some years. And it was awkward. And then I figured, what the crap? If this is the way it's going to be?
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So I'm going to start cheering up a storm when the Utes. I would have never have done that because you can't do that in a regular press box. But in the Sugar Bowl, they had a separate area for radio TV, which didn't have the same I am the jurist of the world and I will save democracy attitude that print journalists, to this day, it's a dying breed, unfortunately, but to this day they have. It's why I call the paper I worked for the Watchdog, because they believe that democracy in this town will crumble if the newspaper would go away, and I tend to agree with them. Not crumble, but I certainly don't want it to go away. So I figured, what the heck? And so they already did that, and they had guys, half that defense played in the NFL. So they got guys that weren't in what we would now consider the power structure, and they still sent dudes regularly to the NFL. In that case, I think literally 5 or 6 defensive starters played in the NFL.
They did. You remember correctly. That's how it happened.
Right. So they didn't need to be in the so-called power league to get that type of talent.
In 2008, they had everything. They had 99% of the deal. It's that last 1% of respect. They were undefeated. They did get to play in a major bowl game. They did get to play a big-time team. They got to play some big-time teams that were really good along the way in the regular season. But there is that 1%, like, you're undefeated. You don't get to play for the title. We'll never vote you for the title. But the fans loved it. The stadium was sold out. People traveled in massive numbers. So you had everything in big-time football except that last 1%, which some people would say, well, DJ, that's the most important 1%. Well, I think that's a subjective deal. It's got maybe it is to you and it isn't to the next person.
That's gone now anyway.
Now you got a 12-team playoff. And that version of that team would have certainly qualified. They'd have been the team in as a G5, G6 school, and they'd had their chance to prove it on the field. And Bama would have been in as a runner-up.
Yeah.
It would have been a quarterfinal game.
Tell me why they need to be in these groups to get what you have. There's no way, there's just simply no way, and maybe that's just a wish, that the SEC can do their thing and then have a playoff, and all of a sudden we don't have a playoff. The TV people aren't going to buy that. They don't want that. If the SEC does this, they become the Live. A high-powered, more interested Live golf. It'll fracture, and then no.
If everybody else stays together and that happens, I can totally see your point. If the Big Ten pulls away and does their own thing, I can see them both doing their own interior playoff or whatever.
And the public won't
and then
accept
they play
it.
like a Super Bowl.
No,
and
public won't accept it.
I do think a big part of the public won't accept it. No. I mean, it's still, they'll have enough viewers, they'll play the game, and they'll make the money. It won't be the same. And I do think that in that scenario, then the West goes the way of the Northeast. In college, you don't have so many places in the West don't have a horse in the race. It's like, well, why does it matter?
Well, then the ACC and the Big 12 can have theirs. And then
you have
the
a mess.
AAC and the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and the
so
Sun Belt does theirs.
So do they all sign their TV deals and we have 3 to 5 to 10 years of a mess and then it all reforms and looks like something again?
I just don't see it. I think at that point, where I said 2 senators, if they're of the different parties, they don't agree on anything, they'll agree on that.
Yeah.
Because it's going to make the objective of a politician is to get elected or to get reelected. And you got to be popular.
Those are the two goals.
TV sportscasters and anchors and politicians, they're the same people. It's all about popularity.
If you don't have popularity, you don't have a gig.
Yeah.
Therefore.
And you crumble if your popularity, whereas in print, it's like, bring it on. I love it. Hate me all you want. I covered Preps in Pedro, and Mary Starr Catholic School started a petition to get me removed.
So the Democratic senators from Illinois will agree with the Republican senators from Indiana.
Yeah.
And the Republicans from Iowa will agree with the Democrats from Pennsylvania because they're all represented in the Big Ten.
And the ham bone is connected to the tailbone. Yeah. So at that, you'll have a national uproar.
This is a rare thing where it could be the senators from Nevada or North Dakota. Doesn't matter party. They could be going the opposite way. What are you doing? Hawaii senators. Hawaii getting cut out. No chance. No chance to live the dream. And Alaska's got no dog in the hunt, so who are they voting for? They're trading their vote for some other issue.
If the SEC could do it, they would have done it instead of talking about it. And next year, depending on what happens, is SAVE, ACT, blah, blah, blah. And keep me abreast of the antitrust stuff because that's your thing. And so then we'll go through it again. And they'll be threatening again. Well, they keep crying wolf, guys. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Because each time you do it, it's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
They're saying stuff for leverage. And your point that you made yesterday, how much, what do they really want? How much do they need? What does the stripped down bill look like? Because negotiating all the stuff and getting it through, it's hard to believe the votes are there for.
Sure.
But you might find a few things you can agree on.
That's the way it works.
And is that good enough?
I don't know if you know this, but that's the way antitrust works.
It's not the way antitrust works, but it is the way it is the way Congress used to work.
You have to have trust in people. And if you don't have trust in people, what do you have? You have antitrust. You follow that, Alex? I'm making sense here. You're a younger guy. Your mind is fresher. You're 26 now. Your brain has been fully formed. Scientists tell us. Only been a year, but I've noticed a big difference in you in this last year as your brain is fully formed. If you don't have trust, what do you have? You have antitrust.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, he just keeps talking. That's a good, solid answer, Alex. Don't engage. Don't engage.
There's no need to engage with truth.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself.
That's the definition of antitrust.
Exactly.
You can't even say that with a straight face, Alex. He's in there cracking himself
because
up.
He gets it. Uh-huh. Yeah, he do.
No, what he gets is you.
I'm not the begotten.
Nah, sometimes you are.
If that were the truth, I'd be the only begotten on this show.
Darren wants them to stay. Expanded playoffs, stay in the Big 12, and grow. And Cam Potter says, I think the Big 12 is perfect for these teams.
I don't know that anything is perfect. But my standard is well enough, good enough, strong enough, those types of things.
How much change would the Big 12 need to undergo before you felt like a move had to happen? Because I think right now you don't think a move has to happen. You think they're playing big-time football. The way you talk about it, the way you
I think when Arizona comes in here the second week of September against BYU, that is big-time football. And the TV people are telling me that that's big-time football because they slotted it at 1:30, 3:30 back east. So all the stuff they have to do on Saturday is over at that point. And you can sit down and watch the game. So they're telling us it's big time. So, yes, I do. I believe it is.
So how much change would the Big 12 have to undergo?
I think there'd have to be something that denied access. That's the thing. When you just spoke about the Utes in 08, they did everything, and they still couldn't be voted in. I mean, that's basically what we had.
That was the era of the BCS title game.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to play in that one game, and you had to play in that one game for the voters to vote you number one. And Kyle famously stood up there on the podium and said, well, I'm going to vote us number one. We're undefeated.
I was in the audience, and I stood up and applauded. I said, you go, boy!
TV mics didn't pick you up, unfortunately.
Well, I thought of it. And that was the year that BYU played 3 undefeated teams, and one of them was SC. And after the game at Rice-Eccles, Brady Papinga, who played many years in the NFL and kind of a nut job sometimes, but he also knows what he's talking about, stood right in front of him, and he said, this team, speaking of Utah, was right there with SC. He said it right after the game. He told his version of the truth, and he was out on the field. He talked about how the schemes and blah, 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 everything. So he spoke from a level of truth, but yet they couldn't. So if it gets to that point, then there's an issue because then it'll go back. We'll go back to the future of what Chris Hill said. I can tell every single athlete that we bring on campus, man, woman, you can play for it all except football. And he would openly say that.
Yep.
And
he said it multiple times.
If it gets to that point, you sort of got me then. But I just can't see it being at that point without a national uproar. We've handled the transfer portal. There's uproars, but no one's really doing anything about it. And we've handled the money, and we've handled coaches bailing on their teams when you're all in or in the way. Family money on 3 for the NIL and all that other stuff. We've handled it. The public has spoken. It's crazy, but we still love it. And something's got to change, but we still love it, right?
Hard to argue that when you look at the last 30 years, man. So much has changed, and if anything, we love it more than ever.
Last 5 to 10.
Last 5, yeah. It's really been constant change. It hasn't really...
Right, but it's been the constant change was similar. These last several years, the change has been unprecedented,
more dramatic,
and it was never had done. They were being paid, but it was all under the table type thing, and blah blah blah. And then I see an executive hand a player an envelope, and I go, I mean, I've known about this for years, but you can't do that in front of me.
Yeah, actually, by the time it was done in front of you, it was totally legit and above board.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just made me laugh that I'm old enough to think, and I had stories. I knew of them. I was told of them. Blah, 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 blah.
Specific names and teams.
And I just rolled with it. And,
which all matched up with what you'd seen.
Yeah. And so we went in that direction, and they handed him the envelope with the cash inside or the check inside. And I actually thought, this is the way it should be. Now, it's spiraled. It's crazy. And it's unfortunate. My Devils lose a quarterback and a running back because of money. And one goes to Texas, one goes to LSU. And 3 years ago, I told you about a backup infielder that an SEC team, an athletic director told me, a starter on his team, baseball, they lost him because the other school in the SEC wanted insurance in case their middle infield, short or second, got hurt. So they're going to pay the kid $250,000 to sit on the bench and be an insurance policy. And he took it because it was way more money than he was getting. It was more than double than what he was getting as a starter. In that case, it would have been Pac-12. Or Pac whatever. I know not all the teams played. Only Colorado had a team, but you get the point.
I literally told that story to a friend of mine. Her grandkid is an athletic prodigy. And in this whole pay-to-play environment and the sport he's in, which I'll tell you in a second. And the sport he's in, he's got these adults who are like, hey, you need to come join this group and pay this amount of money. We'll coach you up. And he's already shown a lot of promise that's measurable. And then, so he was talking to a guy he knows who's a couple years older, who's already been recruited, who's in the SEC. And he said, be careful about injuries from too much training, because they will overwork you trying to prove how tough they are. But as far as the money, you'll pay that back with your NIL in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. PK, they're running track. They're paying track stars in the SEC. That's not the first sport you think would get NIL. And she said, does that ring true to you? And I said, and she knows about you and listens to the show sometimes. I said, yeah, here's a PK story. And I told her that infielder story. And she goes, it's all true. And I'm like, yeah. In the SEC it is. I don't think you're getting that kind of money, if you're running at Weber State.
Oh, right.
Right.
Well, that's why they're
going
going
an SEC
there.
thing. Right. I said, that's why they're leaving Arizona State. It's like.
I didn't say Arizona. Oh, you.
But the Arizona State baseball story. Yeah.
No, I didn't say Arizona State baseball. I said Arizona State football. But
okay. Arizona State football.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, that's why they're leaving some schools and going to others. And you can, first off, you can guess. You're not getting that money at UC Santa Barbara. You're not in anything.
Yeah, but you're trading other stuff for it, though, man.
There it is.
Pretty sweet to me.
Well, the kid's been to a camp there. They ran on the beach every day, and he thought that was fairly awesome.
That's until we get to that point, I say stay where you are and let your mark do his thing.
All right, DJ and PK, stay with us. Coming up next, what is trending? The headlines are on the way.
Over 2 decades of sports radio dominance in Utah.
My favorite.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hashtag NBA.
Well, we have breaking news on the LeBron James front. Wait, hold on. I'm being told it's just a mistake. Oops. The Miami Heat posted a link on the official team. Was it website or social media? Doesn't really matter. Either way, I think it's website. Oh, it's YouTube. It's YouTube. You're right. And LeBron James press conference, July 27th. Hey, the news here isn't that he's going to Miami. The news here is he's holding on to this till July 27th? 5 more days? Come on.
He just needs to make a decision already.
Monday? Make a decision before then. Now, maybe he has. Maybe it's Miami, and maybe this is their cover story. They're lying. They're spinning it. Or they really did make a mistake. They were really trying to prep something. But doesn't July 27th seem pretty specific? They know more than they're letting on. But does that mean they're getting him? It's not really what I'm rooting for. I just think Cleveland and Philly would be the most interesting. Maybe Miami can make some great run and they'd be in the mix and that'd be great. But Giannis doesn't play a lot of basketball. Lowry Markkanen thinks Giannis doesn't play a lot of basketball. And at least Lowry can say, hey, it wasn't me. They were tanking. Milwaukee wasn't tanking. Giannis only played 36 games last year, and he's been averaging low to mid-60s. I think he's had one season. He's played 70 since the pandemic. Giannis is going to miss a lot of games. Is he going to be healthy for the playoffs? A lot of ifs there. Do they have enough shooting? There's another if. And does it really matter? Is he really going there? LeBron, I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, though. Because all this talk about the GOAT, which I don't buy because I'm of the generation of watching Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't lose. LeBron was awesome. LeBron has carried super mediocre teams deep into the playoffs. And he's won titles with 3 different clubs. And he's had an awesome career. But MJ, that guy. You go 25-1 in your last 26 playoff series with the Bulls, you have my full attention. You can draw it out more. He was 28-2. Phenomenal. But now LeBron's going to have a chip on his shoulder because he's not the first active player to have his own exhibit in the Hall of Fame. No. That's Steph Curry. So LeBron's got something to prove. Steph Curry, greatest shooter ever. They need more people showing up at the old Hall of Fame there in Springfield, which I have been to. I went back when Jerry Sloan was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Actually went in the same year as John Stockton. Sloan's speech was unforgettable. Stockton's fine. But Sloan, that guy, you could hear a pin drop in the hall, and I think he was stopping traffic out on the street. People want to know, who is this guy? I mean, I've watched him. I've seen him. Incredible bursts of temper. His teams always win. Never quite got over the top and won the championship, but they were in the mix for so long. And then he stuck it out after Stockton alone and built another really good group. Who is this guy? And he started telling his story, and he's talking about playing basketball on dirt courts, co-ed basketball, because there weren't enough boys to play 5-on-5. And then he started talking about women's basketball and where it should go. And I think he would look at it at where it's gone since he passed away, and he would say, well, yeah, of course. And he would look at the stars that are coming in the league now and think, yeah, okay, this was inevitable. The game was going to get better. It was going to evolve, just like the NBA evolved in his lifetime. Hall of Fame, the one problem with it, though, it's in a mall. It doesn't feel special. I mean, I walked past a Burger King. I went in through the doors. Burger King was on the left. I went down the super wide hallway with moms pushing strollers. There was some other kind of store in there. I don't remember what it was. And then you got to the doors of the Hall of Fame and you went in. It was nice. There's some good stuff in there. I'm a basketball fan and a little bit of historian, so I enjoyed the exhibits and all that. I haven't been to the Baseball Hall of Fame. My brother lived near football, so that got me there the first time, and I did get to go back when Steve Young got inducted. And they've made some improvements to football. It could be better. I think the NFL wants to take it over. I think they're letting the nonprofit do their own thing. It's struggling along. It needs some of the stuff in football is pretty cool, but it could use a little more of an upgrade. The other note, we'll do the WNBA note since I just mentioned it here. So All-Star Weekend, 3-point shootout. What is this, the NBA dunk contest? Everybody want to see in the dunk contest isn't in the dunk contest. Now everybody want to see in the 3-point shootout isn't going to be in the 3-point shootout. The leagues have got to set this up to get their best players doing it or just stop doing it. It's a waste of time. LeBron James is apparently working on a 25-year career because whatever he signs, apparently it's going to be multiple year. And so he's played 23. This is 24 coming up. He signs a multi-year deal. He's going to play a quarter of a century. A quarter of a century, and he's never in the dunk contest once? LeBron, 1 time. 2 times. Something. Throw me a crumb here. So now you got Caitlin Clark. This, I think, is her 3rd year, and she's going to miss the dunk contest for, let me count, the 3rd time. All right. Seems like a good idea. We got someone shooting logo threes. Nobody would want to watch that. There's nothing that would hint at me I'd want to see that. What are you doing? And I've read the stuff about, like, there's too many, you got to shake too many hands, you got to meet too many people, there's too many companies with parties, and they're running around from one sponsor party to another. And I get all that. It's a business weekend. These things are for corporate America. The days of PK rolling up as a 12-year-old and getting in, the days of my dad winning a lottery and taking 3 of us and sitting in right field in San Diego and watching the All-Star game in 78, yeah, those days are gone. That's not happening. We were lucky. We were fortunate. Now it is corporate America writing big, big checks. It's the way things go. The more popular things get, the more we get priced out. We got another example of that coming up later in this segment. But come on, man, get your stars out there. Let us at least watch them on TV. And it's not just Caitlin Clark. I just don't want to bag on her. Probably the second person you want to see in that is Sabrina Ionescu. And she's the one who was in the team 3-point shootout when they did the partners, they did the pairs, and she was teamed with Steph Curry. Everybody knew people wanted to see her. That's why they found a way in a format to get her to the NBA All-Star game to promote the WNBA. Yeah, she's not doing it either. So, okay, great. I'll move on. I'll watch something else. DJ and PK.
#NFL.
What's up with the backflip and Scatterboo? What was your reaction when you saw that on your timeline?
Oh, my reaction when I saw it on my phone?
Yeah.
My reaction was I haven't talked to him yet. I'm going to talk to him, I'm sure. But my reaction was this, dude, at least stick it. You know what I mean? Land the thing if you're going to do it. You know, that was my first reaction. So, Scat's going to be ready to go. And he's been working super hard. He's really been training like crazy. And his mind is on camp. You know, he's healthy. He's ready to roll. And I can't wait to see him out there at practice.
Yeah, that's not a great idea, and the coach can't exactly say it like that, but he can give him a little stick, and then he can say it like that in private. He probably won't say it in public. But I think that whole point about Scatterby being healthy, the bigger point here is 24 years old. All right, he's not always going to make decisions. He's going to – I don't think he'll be doing that in 3 years. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's just wired different. He's from Rio Linda. I don't know what to tell you. I lived in Sacramento. Rio Linda, that's not an easy way out. It certainly wasn't an easy path. You need to beg, borrow, and finally get invited to Sac State and then blow up there and then go to Arizona State and blow up there and then go to the Giants and again take the world by storm. So he's going to do things his own way. He's not someone who's been coddled. People who are coddled do not come from Rio Linda. Rio Linda is – I don't even think there's a good comparison in Utah. Maybe some combination of, I guess, West Valley, Magna. You know, if he were Cypress – Hunter, Granger kid, I guess, maybe, kind of. Rio Linda's so hot and flat. So, driving down, here's one story from Rio Linda. They do, for whatever reason, have one venue there. They had like the National Youth Water Ski Championships. It's the middle of summer in Sacramento. There's nothing going on. They didn't even have AAA baseball when I was there. And so we're driving down the street. So a lot of things you can see, as you get close, it's big. You can see it. Obviously, it's water skiing. It's flat. There's nothing to see. So we're driving down the address. The thing is hidden. There's stuff on the road. It's kind of blocked. I'm looking to the right. The photographer's looking to the left. There's nobody on this road. Really, in the middle of nowhere. Magna, West, they're not good comparisons. It'd be more like if they were like 15 miles west of Grantsville. But just Magna. It can't take all of West Valley and Kearns and Taylorsville and be connected. You can't be connected. You got to be isolated and hot and flat. And socioeconomic issues and, some poverty mixed in. And so we're driving down this road, and all of a sudden we hear this huge noise. And the photographer brakes, and I'm scared. And it did that noise. It was loud. It was kind of metallic. Whoa, did we hit another car? There wasn't enough force. What just happened? And we look up, and there's nothing in front of us. Hey, what just happened? We hit something. Something hit us. There's nothing. Is this alien technology and it zoomed off at 20 billion miles an hour? What just happened? And the photographer stops the car, and this guy's not rattled. John Pavlovich does not get rattled. He gets out of the car. So I'm going to do whatever John Pavlovich does. He's the man. I get out of the car, walk around in front, one metal folding chair in the middle of the road. We hit it. He wouldn't look where he's going. He's crawling along like 6 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour, going super slow. And there was nobody on the road, so you didn't feel like you had to look out. There was nobody in any of the yards. It wasn't like anybody was going to run in front of us. There were homes, but it was just dead quiet. That's Rio Linda. Somebody left a metal folding chair in the middle of the road. Why?
And you happen to hit it.
None of your business. Why do you need it? Yeah, and we hit it. It's a stationary object. That's how long we weren't looking at the road. We finally found the water ski place. That took a little while. The real story with Scatterby and the Giants is there's always a team that goes worst to first, and you never think it's going to happen because they were really bad. But it always happens in the NFL, and it's a combination of you get an easier schedule. It's a combination of you get a little healthier. Maybe you make a couple key acquisitions. Some young guys get experience, maybe better quarterback play. A lot of those things could happen in New York, and they got a coach who's a winner. Now, Harbaugh doesn't have the streak Tomlin has of having winning records, but he's pretty close. And when he hasn't, it's usually been injury-driven. So they got a good coach coming in. And the coaching there, it's mostly been first-timers and sketchy and trying to figure it out. This, to me, feels a lot like his brother going to Los Angeles for the Chargers. Like, there was a quarterback in place, and his brother knows how to win. And they've been hiring a bunch of first-time coaches who are trying to figure it out, going cheap, and it never worked, or it never quite worked, or it never even came close to working. And finally, they got sick and tired, and they paid the money for a proven winner. And they're going to come in, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to win. Maybe not to the highest level, but they're going to win more than they lose. So I think the Giants could take a big step forward here. But they got to have their guys, and they got to be healthy. And the other worst to first team, and this is cheating, Detroit Lions. Hutchinson, healthy, right? They were 9-8 last year. That's not exactly a last-place team, so look out. They don't have that far to go. With 3 or 4 more games, you can win the division. Lions Sam Porta back. Problems, fully cleared for training camp, so that's good news for Detroit. Dolphins give All-Pro linebacker Jordan Brooks a 3-year, $51 million extension. I don't know what happened to football in South Florida, but at both the college and the pro level, if you are old enough to remember the 20th century, holy cow, football was awesome. The Dolphins won 2 Super Bowls in the 70s, went to 3, had their perfect season. We're back in the Super Bowl twice in the 80s and lost. Shula was there. They brought in Marino. I mean, the Dolphins were just almost nonstop excellence. Occasionally they'd miss the playoffs, but they had a bunch of really good teams. And in college, Miami was just average in the 70s when San Diego State beat them. And then took off in the 80s, starting with the takedown in Nebraska in the Orange Bowl, and they had 25 great years. We got to the 21st century, and I don't know what happened to those two. Now, Miami last year finally looked like they were back after a quarter century. The Canes. The Dolphins, all they're doing this year, they just signed All-Pro linebacker Jordan Brooks, 3 years, $51 million. They're starting to identify their core and say these are the core guys we're going to build around. They have a gazillion dollars in dead cap money they're paying to players who aren't on the roster anymore. So this year's lost. They're going to suck. If your team plays the Dolphins, it better be a W, or you let it get away, and you will regret that when your team misses the playoffs or is on the road in the playoffs or is playing a team and you think, oh, we should be playing an easier opponent here. Yeah, well, win the Dolphin game because this is a major rebuild for them. And they got to pull it together. 25 years of nothingness out of those guys. All right, DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
I've actually been saying that for a long time to our president and our administrators that, my frustration is I sit in a meeting and so many times I sit in a meeting, and I learned this, I think 11 years ago, my first SEC head coaches meeting. I had a coach tell me, we will not get anything done in these meetings because we don't have any power or any control. We sit and say what we want, but that doesn't necessarily come to fruition. So I've learned that, until we get governance and we have someone that actually has the power to make decisions, or we can make decisions within our own community, we're not going to have much control. And that's unfortunate, but that's where we sit right now. And if that's the best alternative to get everybody playing by the same rules, then I would want to do that.
That's Kirby Smart doubling down on the SEC breaking away. Okay, it's going to be a lost decade, and the whole rest of the athletic department's going to hate you. But you knock yourself out, because if you pull away, I'm going to be surprised if you get to pull away in just football. And you want to win in basketball. You've invested in basketball. And I know you want to win in baseball because you win the thing all the time. Seems like you got, depending on the year, anywhere from 3 to 6 teams of the 8 in the College World Series. And you dominate women's gymnastics. And you don't play that many sports, but the sports you play, you dominate in. Women's basketball. Yeah, South Carolina, you're not invited to the NCAA tournament. I don't know why the NCAA would take that. All right, if you're out, you're out. Fine. We're not inviting you. Bye. All in favor? Aye. Everybody voted yes, except for you. SEC, you voted no. What are you still doing here? You just quit. You don't get to vote no. Get out. And maybe it's some kind of leverage, and this is to scare lawmakers, and they would never do it. That is the only reason to be talking like this. And it really does come down to lawmakers, because the NCAA, as much as make fun of them, they're losing so many court cases, and all comes back to you're acting like a monopoly. You don't get to do that. Anti-trade, antitrust, blah, 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 and then you lose. Again and again, wash, rinse, repeat. Hey, look, there's a court case with the NCAA. I bet they lose. I bet this Poly Market stuff, I don't know who Poly is, and I don't know why he's running a market. But anyway, I think Poly Market, I know who Poly is. I watch the Rocky films. All the Poly Market stuff, I don't even think they should let you bet. They shouldn't let you bet on NCAA cases. The odds have to be like, you got to bet $10,000 to make one. I mean, why else would you let people bet on that kind of stuff? It's a slam dunk. They're going to lose. The other Georgia news, this just keeps happening to Georgia. Now, this was a little different, but Georgia and motorized vehicles, running back Dante Dowdle, hospitalized after an ATV accident. Ran the ball for Kentucky, expected to be, if not part of a committee, maybe the guy, but he was going to have a big role with Georgia carrying the ball. Ran for over 500 yards, 3 scores last year at Kentucky. ATV accident. Kirby Smart's take on this is he's through the worst of it, which I took to mean it's not life-threatening now, but maybe at one point they were worried about that. But there are major injuries, including some spinal injuries, and Kirby Smart is like, no idea when he plays football. He's just got to get healthy. That's got to be the number one focus. And then after that, then we can decide about football. So I don't know if there's issues with him walking. The health updates, the information's limited, but it sounds bad. And Georgia, after a ton of collisions, crashes, high-speed incidents, now it's an ATV, which, I mean, we know from the news around here, those can be dangerous. You know, high center of gravity, and, you know, you're on bumpy surfaces riding them off-road or whatever, and they can go over. Vanderbilt, they don't need the next quarterback to perform like Diego Pavia. Agree to disagree. I don't know what to tell you. Vanderbilt's been tougher. I do give Vanderbilt, I said this before, I give Vanderbilt a lot of credit. They could have cheated like everybody else in the SEC, and they didn't. And they weren't paying players like everybody else was paying players. And so they lost a lot, consistently. Hi, we're Vanderbilt. We're last in the league. Get to the NIL era. Bang, hi, we're Vanderbilt. We won 9 games. How about that? You want 3 more hours of this? I don't think you do. Go find Arkansas if you want a cupcake. But now Pavia's gone, and, unless you got Kyle Whittingham coaching your team, working around mediocre quarterback play is hard. Kyle, mediocre quarterback play, 9 wins. Good quarterback play, conference title game, maybe Rose Bowl. But not everybody works around it the way Kyle did. Alex Golesh, the new coach at Auburn, says his goal is to return Auburn football to national relevance. Well, that's good, because if you don't do that, you're going to get fired. It turns out that's everybody's goal at Auburn. What's the line from Mad Men? That's what the money's for. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Crawford's caught between third and home. The throw to Rushing. He runs down the line, pumps a throw, gives it to Betts. Crawford is tagged. Runner between second and third. Rio Muto. He's caught up the bag. He's out at second. And the ball game is over. That's a win for L.A.
And thank you for some terrible base running.
The pitch is drilled deep to right. Racing back. Malgiri at the wall. Gone! Pinch hit, 2-run home run for Michael Conforto.
Ball, and that's it high in the air and deep to left field, and you can kiss that one goodbye. Off the community leader's sides, 3-run home run, Isaac Paredes, and a 5-1 lead for the Astros.
Astros go on to beat the Marlins 5-3. Notable because the Marlins, the playoff team in the National League, the break, they restarted after the All-Star break, and nobody notified the Marlins. They are 0-5 since the All-Star break. Now, to be fair, we can't blame it on the All-Star break. They lost their last 3 before the All-Star break. They've dropped 8 in a row, which is good because my Padres have some work to do to get back in the playoff picture. We could use some help from the Marlins. Hey, you guys feel like making that 18 in a row? I can sign off on that. I'll co-sign that, just especially because the Padres are going there next. Padres won. Are they starting to hit, or is it just the law of numbers, as Matt Harpring once said? They're in Matt Harpring's town. They're in Atlanta. Padres beat the Braves 8-3. Home runs from guys who haven't been hitting home runs. Number 8 for Fernando Tatis Jr. took forever. He changed his batting style. I haven't read it. My guess is he's changed some stuff back. Hey, I don't have a home run, and it's July. Can we stop with the spring training changes? Because they're not working. Or maybe they're finally working. Either way, he's got 8 home runs now. He hit a 474-foot home run that cleared the bleachers and landed on the concourse up on top, which in Atlanta, it looks a little bit like Colorado. If you're not familiar with the Atlanta ballpark, you know Colorado. It's a long way. And Manny Machado homered twice as well. And those guys have not been hitting. So they got to go and they beat the Braves 8-3. The game I really cared about yesterday, Red Sox, you're going to do 14 in a row? The answer is no, you are not. You're not going to play any baseball at all. Postpone the weather. Baltimore and Boston will try again and have to be made up. Yankees and Pirates, same deal. They got rained out as well. You heard the base running blunder there. Yeah, that was phenomenal. That was phenomenally. See, when there's a rundown, a runner gets off, the guys who are behind, the guy who's in a pickle, are supposed to take the base, so you don't give up the base, and then you just accept the out. But JT Realmuto, catcher, apparently not known for his base running, on third base is a second and third, one out. It's 2-1. It's a one-run game, right? Dodgers win 2-1. Ninth inning, bottom of the ninth. They've got the tying run at third. They got the winning run at second. Sharp ground to third. Runner at third gets caught off the bag. He's in a rundown. Realmuto takes third. That was the good. That was the good part of the base running. But then, for some reason, he decided to try to run back to second. I don't know why, because his teammate wasn't getting out of that rundown, so what did it matter? Hold on to third base. Maybe you'll score on a wild pitch or a pass ball. Maybe an error, just a bobbled ball, an infield single. Who knows? Nope. He headed back for second, and that gave him enough time to throw him out at second after they ended the rundown. So they got a double play, and they got out of there, and that was terrible base running. Dodgers win 2-1. You know who might sneak in and who might be unbearable if it happens? Watch out for those Diamondbacks. I think PK had co-signed that 18-game losing streak for Miami if they want to sign up for that. Diamondbacks win again. They beat the Athletics 6-5. Athletics were playing 500 ball. They were in the playoff race. Yeah, not anymore. Done. Toasted. Done and dusted. They're like 15 games under 500 now. Diamondbacks win. The Bees got beat. Omaha beat them 9-8 at the ballpark. Same two teams tonight. Listen to the game right here on The Zone. 6:35. All right. DJ and PK.
#RSL.
Real Salt Lake back in action tonight. The World Cup break is over. They will be playing LAFC. It'll be a shorthanded RSL team. No Justin Glad. He's been out about 8 weeks. Now they think he might be out at least another month, maybe 2. So that's not good. That's not good at all. 5 guys for 3 spots in the back. It's getting a little thin here, and they're going to play 2 games this week. They play tonight in L.A., and then they're in Portland. And then they got 8 games in August. It adds up to like 10 games in 40 days, unless they win in advance in the League's Cup, in which case quarterfinals, game number 11. Yay, more games. They're missing Emeka Nelly. Aiden Hazarkani broke his toe, so he's out. So you're hitting a stretch where you're basically playing twice a week. You're going to need 21 guys probably get through this. Maybe you squeak through with 18 or 19, but you probably need 21 guys. The goalkeeper could play every game. The other guys are going to need rotation and subs at some point. I mean, not everybody will play the same amount of time. You won't split it evenly, but nonetheless, these other guys are going to have to produce. And you got a 30-man roster, and you got a couple open spots, and now 3 guys are hurt. And if you're thinking, the numbers aren't going to add up there, DJ, I don't know a lot about soccer. You're right. The numbers might not add up there. And have a couple more injuries, especially at positions where they already have injuries. That's going to be a problem. So, and LAFC tends to be a problem. They're currently trailing RSL in the standings. RSL third in the West. We'll see if RSL can pick up where they left off. They've had issues with this when they hit the League's Cup break the last few years, and it hasn't always been the same issue, but it's been the same results, as in not as good as the stuff before the break. Stuff before the break was good. They can keep going at that pace. They got something. But games are coming fast and furious now. The injuries are adding up, and I think it's a real question mark whether they're going to have the depth to handle it. Depth shouldn't be an issue tonight. This is something that'll wear on you 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks of this stuff. Tonight, LAFC, a team that they have struggled with big time, but we'll see if they're better equipped to handle them tonight. 8:30, first kick right here on The Zone. Mentioned the World Cup break is over. The final numbers are in. 61.5 million viewers for the World Cup final. That's a lot of viewers. That's AFC and NFC title games, which really only get beat on TV by the Super Bowl, tend to be in the mid to high 40s, 46, 47, 48 million, something like that. A really big conference title game, like when the Bills played the Chiefs a couple of years ago, that was 57 million. So 61 is an enormous number. Now, can you sustain it? And does the World Cup equal watching, your domestic league, the league in your country? In some countries it does. In this one, typically it does not. So how many of those people are going to sample it and like it and fall in love with it? It's up to Major League Soccer to capitalize on that. Messi's going to miss the first couple games, but how many of the best players can you get? Like you want to get eyeballs on your sport. Salary cap's great, but people have got to use those designated player spots aggressively and get stars. LA bringing in Son brought eyeballs. That guy is very popular in Asia, wildly popular in South Korea, and he's been a really good player for LAFC. I think he leads them in assists. And obviously Messi in Miami. But celebrity sells, and the World Cup has it, and MLS has it sporadically in spots. So we'll see if they cut loose, and if it leads to another round of signing. They're flip-flopping their schedule. So the season's going to start in the fall and end in the winter. This will be the last time they have the playoffs during the NFL season. And that's supposed to help them sign more players. So we'll see if they can capitalize on this going forward. Because 61.5, that's a huge number, the best anyone could have hoped for. DJ and PK.
#NHL.
And speaking of the best anyone could have hoped for, I don't think John Marino was expecting any more than that. Max contract extension, by definition, can't expect more than that. 8 years, $54 million. He is the prototypical Bill Armstrong defenseman. 6'1", 200, 29 years old, and a guy who's had to grind. He was not one of these pretty boy first-round draft picks, guaranteed, can't miss. Oh, boy, I can't wait. No, he was a sixth-rounder. Yeah, all right, we'll draft you, go to work, and hopefully you turn into something. Well, he has, so congrats to him. He's 29, and he just signed an 8-year deal for $54 million. So obviously there's some risk for the club at the end of that, but that tells you how he's playing right now because Bill Armstrong will squeeze a buck, and he offered up 8 years and $54 million to sign Marino. All right, DJ and PK, there you go. That's what's trending. There are your headlines. Stay with us. Question of the day is coming up next. Segment sponsored by Shamrock Plumbing. No job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing.
You better coverage of the teams you're passionate about than these guys.
Try some more.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
KSL Sports Zone and BI Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the BI Meals Hero of the Week, KSLSports.com/contest. CBS Sports slandering the Big 12. No respect. Okay, part of me doesn't care. But here's the part of me that does care. The respect matters because you still got a committee picking 7 teams that are going into postseason play. And the Big 12 doesn't want to be a one-bid league. I'd so much rather talk about, hey, it's the games, win, go out and win the conference title. But knowing full well the chance for a second or third place team to get in rides on respect. Well, that makes this kind of stuff important. And unfortunately, when the CBS Sports college football writers came out with the easiest Power 4 schedules, top 10 easiest, that makes it sound like a bottom 10. But who are the Power 4 teams with the 10 cushiest, most comfortable schedules? They put a slew of Big 12 teams on the list. Number 2, Texas Tech. No BYU, no Utah, no Power Conference team on the non-conference schedule. They had Oregon State there for a while. Pac-12 blows up. Oregon State no longer counts as a Power League game. And to make matters worse, Oregon State comes completely undone. So Tech was at number 2. Number 1 was NC State. So they picked on an ACC team first. Number 3, Kansas State. So 2 of the top 3 Big 12 teams. All right. Nice. K-State doesn't play Utah, doesn't play BYU, doesn't play Texas Tech, doesn't play a Power 5 team. Why wasn't K-State number 1? I can't really defend that. I mean, there's 4 power leagues. If you end up with 2 teams on the league, well, everybody's going to have a couple, right? There's 4. That's 8. Then there's a couple more, whatever. So K-State's the team that should be on the list. No one should be whining about. If you don't play Tech and you don't play BYU and you don't play Utah and Washington State, former Pac-12 team, no longer a Power League team, is your big non-conference game, well, you got an easy schedule. I don't know what to tell you. Piece of cake. Love it. Easy. Congrats, K-State. You better win some games. That's keep your eye on K-State for the Big 12 title race. If they don't get there, it's a them problem. After some more ACC teams, Virginia at 4, Miami at 5. Miami better be in the playoffs with that cake schedule. Pittsburgh at 6. Now, back to the Big 12. Coming in at number 7. You know them, you love them, you can't live without them unless you root for the Utes, in which case you'd probably like to live without them. Number 7, the BYU Cougars. Yeah, they look at the schedule. The Cougars' 2026 schedule is the kind of draw Power 4 contenders beg for behind closed doors. No one with an ounce of sense would ask for this in public. You'd get called out, but behind closed doors. BYU gets enough brand value to matter. Notre Dame and Utah move the needle. Without the weekly meat grinder, others are staring down. No Texas Tech. No Houston. No Kansas State. No Oklahoma State. That's a massive break inside a Big 12 race where separation could come down to one bad Saturday. The road slate is manageable, too, with Utah and TCU standing as the obvious swing game. Stack that against the SEC and Big Ten contenders grinding through ranked opponents every other week, and BYU has a legitimate runway. If the Cougars are playoff good like last season, the schedule won't get in their way. Yeah, I don't know about that. Let's say they take care of these 10 teams that you think they should take care of. If they split with the 2 ranked teams, Utah and Notre Dame, and they're 11-1, and they lose the conference title game, is BYU getting in at 11-2? Hey, the head and the heart do not agree. The heart might say yes, but given what you've seen the last couple of years, your head might tell your mouth to use the word no. They're not getting in. Back to the SMU at 8. Back to the Big 12 with Houston at 9. Because, again, Oregon State on the non-conference schedule, and they don't play BYU. Basically, they're told beat Texas Tech and beat Utah. You got 2 big games on your schedule. There you go. And if you split them, then you end up in the conference title game. One Big Ten team gets a shout-out. Penn State at 10. Nobody from the SEC. See, when you have 7 10-win teams, even if you're only playing 8 conference games and you're padding your schedule with easy W's, and then you flounder spectacularly in the playoff, you still get credit. So the SEC has nobody on the list. The Big Ten has 1, and then the Big 12 has 4 teams, including 3 of the 4 that have been identified as heavy favorites to be in that mix to go to the conference title game. And if you're going to widen that circle, K-State, because they play nobody, could be, it's 4 of the 5. Utah is not on the list, but all the other contenders, Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, maybe Kansas State, they are. Part of the problem here is the league gets no credit for 9-4 teams, Arizona and TCU. And TCU's had a program. They've been good multiple times. They've won a Rose Bowl. They have busted the BCS on multiple occasions. They have been in the championship game in the 4-team playoff era. Took down Michigan, and they got blown out by Georgia. No love there coming off a 9-4 season. And Arizona, no love coming off a 9-4 season either. And you're like, well, DJ, how does the SEC get treated with those 9-win teams? Well, funny thing about that, the SEC didn't have any 9-win teams. I went looking that up to debate exactly that point with myself, flying solo with PK on vacation. Funny thing about that, 7 10-win teams, you got a couple 8-win teams. Nobody finishes with 9 wins in the SEC. You get to double digits, you get looked at differently. And you could say that's arbitrary, and it is, and yet nonetheless, when you're only playing 12 games, plus conference title games, playoffs, bowls, that's where the line tends to get drawn. It's an easy thing to reference. It really sucks that 3 of these 4 teams that are getting called out are playing Oregon State because the committee's going to look at Oregon State and go, yeah, so you beat Oregon State. Good for you. Next! That's how that's going to work. So thank the Oregon State Beavers for coming off a really bad year. They're not in a power league. They didn't do that to themselves. That's too bad. All right, well, there you go. BYU at number 7. It's a 2-game season. No love for TCU and Arizona, who I do think by consensus would be pretty much teams 3 and 4. If you start doing the old confidence points thing, the game I got the most confidence in the Cougars winning would be Utah Tech. For the Utes, it'd be Idaho. I'll put 12 points on that game. All right, now what's your 11-point game? And you go through the schedule like that. Well, for BYU, you can pick your order, but Notre Dame won and Utah too. I mean, if you want to go the emotion of the rivalry and the fact it's a toss-up game, but I think Notre Dame's good enough it's not viewed as a toss-up game, so I'd probably go Notre Dame 1, Utah 2. But Arizona, TCU, Arizona's at home. I'd probably go TCU 3, Arizona 4. Just not getting the love, not getting the respect, coming off 9-win seasons. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Utah's best coverage of the Utes, Cougars, Jazz, and Mammoth. Here we go. From the guys who have been there for all the biggest moments in Utah sports history. You're listening to DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G and the coach. Thursday, 10 to 2. Tim, Dolly, Mazda, and Sandy, 10785 South Auto Mall Drive. That's tomorrow right here on the Zone. DJ PK taking a couple days off. He'll be back with us Monday. Right now, I would like to talk to you about why the World Cup final is important to Utah and BYU football. And you're thinking, oh, yeah, this will be good. Even Alex just looked up. He's doing something in there because Jake Hatch is off also.
I'm curious
and
to see where
remind me
this
of that
is
the
going.
next time you're sitting in there and PK starts in with a, you two have left me alone. I've never done that to you. Remind me of that next time.
I'll remind you.
Because I forget. Here we are. Here we are. I'm not alone,
one,
Alex.
Not one guy, but two guys.
I got the captain up on the bridge. I'll be fine. I called Alex a captain for a long time until I figured out we got a bunch of new people at the same time. And, I heard some names. I saw some faces. But for the life of me, I couldn't figure out who was who. There are no introductions. No nothing. And you're running around. When you do the pregame show's in here, so you can walk it in, and you don't want to disrupt the producer during the pregame show. So then during the game, you're like, oh, we got a new face in there today. Huh. But they're like, you're on at 10. There's no time for small talk. I figured it out, but for a while there, Captain. And then it's I'm pretty sure this is Alex. Oh, that'll be super embarrassing if I blow it. Captain! I couldn't commit. But now we're boys.
That we are.
And I like you and Christian, but PK got thrown under the bus, so he's a little down on Christian right now. You're going to have to be what they call in the old advertising industry some make goods. I'm sure they'll figure it out. All right, Captain, here you go. All right, so here's the tease. Here's the headline. How the World Cup final impacts Utah and BYU. We've been talking a lot of conference realignment. PK's like, don't do anything unless you really have to. Make the Big 12 better. How do you make the Big 12 better? Get more eyeballs on it. Get paid more money because you need more people watching your games. How do you do that? You got to do what the World Cup did. Why did they get 61.5 million viewers? And you can go with all the basic stuff, have a good event, market it. Obviously, all the games in the tournament leading up to it are marketing to the final. Here's what they did. They also played that game at a time where there's nothing else going on. There wasn't even PGA Tour golf going on. The British Open was done. The Open Championship wrapped up. Actually, it was great. They kind of one led right into the other. It was perfect flow. Could you have the leaders tee off 7:30? That'll wrap things up right around 1. Got anything going at 1? Perfect. World Cup final. Excellent. And the reason the World Cup final, from the broadcast perspective, obviously you need the show. And they had Messi in the game, and Spain's been good. So there were a lot of things going right. They had controversy leading up to it. Controversy always draws. Absolutely. I hate it when that happens. Except the viewership goes up because everybody's talking about it. More people watching, more people listening. But that broadcast was everywhere. Fox didn't get 61.5 million viewers. Fox got 38 million viewers. Still a huge number. The other 22, almost 23 million were watching on Telemundo. They're watching the Spanish language broadcast. It was streaming. It was on multiple channels. It was everywhere. Why does ESPN put college football on every channel with all these multiple broadcasts. You know, they'll have the local announcer, a.k.a. the homer announcer going. They'll have 4 active coaches sitting on a sofa watching the game, just talking and reacting, a non-traditional broadcast. They'll put somebody popular like Pat McAfee standing on the sideline, just talking with his boys, wearing undershirts because, you know, why not? And then they add it all up, and college football gets a better viewership, which I should mention. I saw like the biggest college football championship games are right around 30, maybe that might be a 33 million, certainly 30 million. A lot of them are in the high 20s. So the World Cup final did double that, which goes to show, you know, time slot and competition matters and playing where you normally play. So I think where this goes to BYU and Utah is, and I've thought this for a long time, at least 5 years now, I've been talking about this, but I'm going to say it again. Those ESPN Friday games are good, but you got to talk ABC into put it on over the air. More people can see it. You'll get a bigger number. Period, end of story. And does the game need to be streamed? Absolutely. It is already being streamed. You got to keep all that. Right now, the audience is everywhere, so you have to be everywhere. Why is our show on the radio, but it's also podcast, but it's also streamed, and soon something else, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. That might have been too much right there. It'll be clear soon enough, people. They got to go to ABC and put it on the air. Fox is doing it with the Big Ten, and it is working. They're getting numbers, and people are looking for football. And you got to go to them and say, listen, do it every week. And they're going to say you don't have enough good games. Well, then you got to go to them and say, well, then do a few weeks. It's simple. Why not like the first week? Nobody's watching. Number one, Friday night, nobody's watching primetime TV. Nobody watches primetime TV any night of the week really anymore. Unless there's sports on. I mean, the biggest primetime shows are now all games. It's like 95 out of 100, maybe a couple of award shows mixed in. That's it. Other than that, it's sports, and more sports. It's mostly NFL, then it's college football, it's NBA playoffs. It's sports, and more sports. Those are the shows. So get in the game. Did you just read about the ESPN layoffs? I mean, big names. Like Carl Ravitch has been with the network 33 years. Most people don't know David Lloyd, but he's another guy who's been there 30 years. I worked in Sacramento when he was in Sacramento. It's a different station, going to games and all that. Good guy. He's carved out a long run, Sports Center anchor. They're going to let him go. You got to make more money. Entertainment is not making money on Friday night. Put games there. In the Big 12, do it. Honestly, if you had to go to them and say, hey, we'll put 2 Eastern teams together and we'll put 2 Western teams together, so you can put them in prime time and then do the reverse mirror thing on ESPN2 that they've always done where, all right, the rest of the country watch it there and everybody can watch the game streaming. Do that. Get creative. You're going to get your best ratings on over-the-air networks, and you're going to get your best ratings when there's less competition. So Friday night's prime time. If you can't get it every week, then try to get a few weeks. And early in the season, schedule a marquee game right out of the gate. There's a reason the World Cup got to 61 million. And yes, Messi's part of the reason. And yes, having a tournament to hype up the whole thing is part of the reason. But the fact that they were on multiple networks, major plus. You got to get out there. And they were over the air. The over the air stuff always beat the stuff that's on cable. Cable shuts some people out right away. Streaming services shut people out right away. And a lot of people who can't, very few people can afford everything. Or even if they can't afford it, want to pay for everything. It's just annoying. Put it out there for free over the air, you get your biggest number. You get your bigger numbers, you'll get more money. All right, DJ and PK, how'd I do, Alex? I tie that together. Does that actually make sense?
Yes, it did make sense.
Despite the fact at the start, you're like, whoa.
I was very confused at first.
At the very start,
I was curious to see where you were going.
We might need to get PK back in here right away.
No, it worked out great.
All right, DJ and PK coming up next. Really? See, we get all amped up about our local teams. But when national people start getting positive about our local teams, then we really get all sorts of fired up. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
Over 2 decades of sports radio dominance in Utah.
My favorite.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Sam Quinn has a story out, and it echoes things that have been written, not as definitively, but have been written with a similar tone by other people, social media, stories on the web. But we'll go ahead and go with Sam Quinn, longtime NBA guy, currently writing for CBS. He grades all the NBA teams' off seasons. Now, locally, everybody's all fired up for the Jazz in the media. I get not all the fans are. There are some fans still bitter about 4 years of tanking and rebuilding and don't think it's going to turn around. Personally, I thought it was going to turn around in spectacular fashion. I've been talking 50 wins, and if they're fortunate, coin toss of first-round playoff series. However, all that stuff was tempered with, let's see what happens with all the rosters around the league in the summer. So now stuff's happened with the rosters, including with the Jazz roster, and Walker Kessler is a Laker, and I no longer expect 50 wins. Maybe I was up at night in the first place. We'll never know. I don't think I was. I talked to a few other people. They were with me. One person was even like, 50? Pfft. This team's going to 55. And the logic from that person, who I'll let speak for themselves, was that you are underestimating the fact that the Jazz regular season wins are going to mean a lot to the Jazz, and they're not going to mean a lot to other teams that are better teams and who are like, playoff seeding, whatever, fine. We got to get healthy. So-and-so's hurt, so-and-so's dinged up, and the wins are going to flow. That's pretty optimistic. But all that was based on having Kessler. And Kessler can make any team better because he can protect the rim, he can take away layups, and he'll block shots, he'll alter shots, and shots will never be attempted. People will settle for jumpers because they don't want to deal with him and his length and his athleticism. They just don't want to do it. But the Jazz traded him. And I think for a young team, David Locke has made this point, and he's right. The reason to temper expectations is they were playing free and easy. There was no pressure. Now there will be. They were playing against teams that didn't really take them serious and did not come in completely prepared. There is a wide gap between the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz in the 2025-2026 season. But then you see them play, and it's tooth and nail. Not because they're as good, because the Nuggets don't take them serious and aren't prepared. The Nuggets are exhausted, and they look at the Jazz tanking and come in and are like, yeah, whatever. And the Jazz are all sorts of fired up, running around. Yay. Well, it's going to be different. Teams are going to come in prepared. And I think Darren Peterson, the fact they got the 2 pick is great because you get more talent. But the fact you get the 2 pick is a problem because these guys, these top 4, quite frankly, have such big reputation, expectation of getting talked about. And veterans never, ever like that and they want to take that player down. And the bigger and better you are, the worse it is. Ask Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal. That'll get you frozen out of an all-star game. That doesn't happen very often. It's happened to a couple guys. What do they have in common? 10 championships. That's what they have in common. So these young guys are marked guys. And people are going to want to D up to Bonson. They're going to want to D up Peterson. This guy can't light me up. And they're going to want to score on these guys. And having Kessler behind him, all right, maybe I don't want to take Peterson. It's going to make Peterson and Ace Bailey, right, young, inexperienced defenders. And now guys are more likely to go at him, which means these guys are more likely to get in foul trouble. I mean, you just kind of see the snowball effect. Now I think this is a 40-win team. Really, it ought to be a 45-win team. But to drop the expectations about 5 wins, I get it. And I was thinking they've definitely got to be a 45-win team, but really I think they can get to 50. Now I think they definitely should be a 40-win team, and I think that'll get to 45. I think winning more than losing is completely realistic. But whereas before I thought they might have a shot at top 6, I don't really see it now. I think this is more play-in territory. We will not skip steps, says Dennis Lindsay more than a decade ago. Or maybe exactly a decade ago, actually. And Dennis is gone, and his voice still rattles around the arena. Steps will not be skipped. There's 3 classes. There's bottom 5 in the West, where the Jazz have been for 4 years. And there's play-in territory. And then there's playoff territory. And for Kessler, the Kessler, it works for me in the long run because they were always going to have to make major moves because even if they signed people as they went, as they got deeper into the roster and guys got out of the rookie deal, hard calls were going to have to be made. So they just went and made a hard call now. And I got to tell you, Sam Quinn and many other people I've read writing about it, we'll just stick with Sam for now, love it. Sam gave the Utah Jazz a B+. And Sam was a hard grader. These teams typically, it's like 3 teams get an A+, 3 teams get an A, 3 teams get an A-, 3 teams get a B, and then 2 teams get a C and 1 gets a D, and nobody fails. And it's just like, because Sam's got to call everybody and he needs scoops, and so he doesn't want to fry anybody, which I totally get. But that's the way these things usually work. Sam must not be responsible for breaking news. Here's how many A+ he gave out. 0. Here's how many A's he gave out. 0. 1 A- to the Clippers for the Kawhi Leonard deal. And he even says, hey, now this thing's on hold. If they don't end up getting all that draft capital, I'm regrading this thing. If they end up with Kawhi on the roster, I'm definitely regrading this thing. And then after the Clippers at A-, he thought the Jazz B+. 2 long-term problems simmering this offseason that didn't necessarily need to be solved immediately, but would have gotten worse over time if they hadn't. That's exactly how I look at Kessler's contract. You could deal with it in the short run, but the bigger it was, we were talking high 20s and it ends up being low 30s, and there was talk about mid or high 30s. The bigger the contract, the sooner it can be a problem. And it could be a big problem as soon as next year. And he loves the 2 draft picks and the ability to flip picks. If the Jazz rebuild is going to go slower, and if Doncic is on notice because now LeBron's gone and it's all on him, and the whole league's like, was Dallas right? Are you fat and out of shape and incapable of doing anything? Doncic might have, a great year. And the flip, the trade, the draft swap may not be worth anything, and that's why the Lakers made it, because they're counting on that happen. But if Doncic is a little out of shape and he has some kind of injury and a hamstring, he's out a couple months, maybe that's useful. And he gave him credit for Nurkic and Hayes and said they will suffice for now. Down the line, the Jazz will have to deal with it. But he points out with other young players coming up needing money, there wasn't money to go around. They're already paying Markkanen and Jackson, Keontae George, then Ace Bailey, then Darren Peterson, and a lot of people here who, if this goes as well as people hope, are going to have to get paid. So 2 first picks, 2 first-round swaps, high price to pay. Other teams that he graded well, the Wolves and the Spurs got Bs, and the Grizzlies got a B-. Everybody else in the West was getting Cs or worse. Sam was cracking on people. The Thunder, for their salary dump, he gave them a C. They with that last move, they move Lou Dort. They've now saved $40 million in salary, but that translates into $224 million when you add in the luxury tax payments and the penalties for the second apron. You might like Lou Dort, but that's almost $250 million. So, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, love you guys. Don't love you $225 million worth. So, C+ for those guys. And cracking on the Lakers, giving them a C-. They had $50 million in cap space, up to 3 first-round picks and 3 first-round swaps to trade, and they moved most of them and used most of the cap space. And they got to get better. They're not a championship-level team yet. They're bridging the gap. How are they going to do it? They better find themselves a Joe Ingles. That's what they better do. They better go find themselves a Lou Dort. They need someone undrafted out of college or undrafted out of Europe who they can pay very little money, who can play at a pretty high level pretty quickly. Because there's no other path forward for them. They made themselves better, but they didn't make themselves good enough. And, man, if there is any team in the league that is championship or bust, Lakers. I think in their current situation, the Celtics are probably right there. Even the Sixers, with all their talent, I don't think are championship or bust. Those guys haven't been in a conference final in so long that if they get to an NBA final and lose a long series to Wemby, and Wemby's great, people are going to go, well, that was better. That was good. Be like the last time the Sixers went to the final. They celebrated AI, but he lost to Iverson was great. They won a game, and then they lost 4 in a row. They won game 1 and lost 4 straight to Shaq and Kobe. It's like that was a great run, but they're the better team. But the Lakers is championship or bust, and after that Kessler trade, it's hard to see how many paths they have forward, and they need multiple players. Gave the Blazers a D, the Kings a D+. I don't even know if people in Portland care about making bad deals, which I think the Ja Morant deal was, because right now with their new ownership, I think they're in real trouble of losing that team. Everything I'm hearing out of Portland right now is what I heard out of San Diego in the 3 to 4 years before the Chargers moved. It's all demands. There's nothing conciliatory. There's no negotiating. Give me my give me my money, comma, bad word I can't say, or I'm out. And that type of attitude doesn't generally make taxpayers and elected officials want to give you the money. I think Portland's a little different. I think Sunbelt cities, there's so many transplants, it can be a little tougher. Not always. Plenty of Sunbelt cities have built stuff, but they're going to be transplants that get a little harder to get the money. And some places like Phoenix will give money for a while, and they'll build 1, 2, 3 facilities. Way more than that if you count spring training. But eventually, even there, like, you want a hockey arena too? How many of these things are we supposed to build? We'll build some stuff. It's good. It may not pencil out, and the economists will always tell us it doesn't. But the vibe and the energy it gives to the city and the happiness it brings to the people, how do you put a dollar amount on that? And so these things get done. Except they didn't get done, and that's why Utah has a hockey team. And that's why San Diego doesn't have an NFL team. And I don't know, man, the stuff I'm hearing in Portland. And you're like, is the owner really going to play that kind of hardball, or is this just, it's like the SEC. He's negotiating. Well, he engraved his kid's name on the Stanley Cup. So you tell me, what do you think tradition means to that guy? You could put a warm bucket of spit in the Stanley Cup. That's what tradition means to that guy. We got the cup, but Junior's name on it. Junior doesn't play for the team. Say one more word, I fire you. Engraver. Start engraving. We got to get Bill Orm on the show. He's been writing this. Bill Zanteno was very good on this. Former Salt Lake Tribune writer, now a columnist for the Oregonian in Portland. And right away, he's writing, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about the Blazers leaving. From what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and what I'm smelling. And I saw the social media blowback on Bill. You're so negative. How dare you? Yeah, and everyone's like, this could really happen. Stop shooting the messenger. Messenger knows what he's talking about. Sounds a lot like the Chargers right now. And I don't know the politics up there. That's why I like to get him on. But I'm thinking it's 60-40 or 70-30 he's going. And I don't know if that's going to disrupt. I don't know if he'd run to Seattle or Vegas. He owns Carolina, so maybe he wants. Does he want to move it to Raleigh? Does North Carolina need 2 NBA teams right down the road from Charlotte? Raleigh said there's it's kind of its own thing. Sacramento and San Francisco aren't that far apart. LA and San Diego, those 3 baseball teams, they're not that far apart. Now, LA's massive. Charlotte's big, but it's not LA. Atlanta's like, we didn't even want Charlotte in the first place. We don't need Raleigh, too. What are we doing? We were the only team in the South. Maybe Nashville. I've heard Nashville mentioned. I don't know. Kansas City built an arena a long time ago, and they never put an NBA team in it. They'd probably raise their hand. How about us? All right, well, we'll see what happens. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Stay with us. More college football on the way. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Over 2 decades of sports radio dominance in Utah.
My favorite.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Win big later today. It's a Win Ticket Wednesday, the KSL Sports Zone. Win Tickets Wednesdays. Today, you can win a pair of tickets to see Post Malone with special guests Jelly Roll and Carter Faith at Rice-Eccles Stadium on July 28th. Tickets are on sale now at livenation.com. Get your tickets today and listen to KSL Sports Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. All right. There you go. When are we going to give those away?
Let's give them away right now. 801.
You want to do it right now? All right. Why wait around, people? 801-575-ZONE. Caller 12. Right now, 801-575-ZONE. 2 tickets to Post Malone, Jelly Roll, and Carter Faith, July 28th. If you don't win now, you can buy tickets at livenation.com in 5 minutes after you realize you haven't won. All right? Start dialing. Good luck. Alex will be busy with the phones now. All right, DJ and PK. PK's on vacation. Filling in for the next hour, ready to talk college football and a concert of his own. Ron McBride.
What's up, David?
Former football coach at Utah and Weber State. Ronnie Mac, how are you?
Good. I'm well.
You are well.
I am very well. Yeah.
You are working on your foundation. We have you in a couple times a year, talk about that and talk about football.
Right.
I got people, I just did a segment on basketball. I got Captain Cody tweeting at me, why are you still talking about basketball, DJ? And then he uses the gif from Sandlot. You're killing me, Smalls. He wants football talk. You're here for football talk.
There you go.
And a little concert talk. Let's move the mic.
Okay.
There we go. Oh. You talk directly in the mic while you look at me. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So the concert is The Head and the Heart.
The Head and the Heart, yes.
Alex, you want to and they have a great story. I did not know this. Prepping for this, I was looking at the background on this. The reason they're called The Head and the Heart is because when the band was forming in Seattle,
right.
The one guy trying to get, I think there's 6 people in the band, right?
Right.
The guy trying to get them all together is like, listen, your head is telling you, get a job in business, make some money, Seattle's expensive, live a responsible life. But your heart's telling you, you got to be in this band.
That's right. That's exactly
That's
right.
a great backstory. Yeah. Why is it the head and the heart? When I first saw that, I was like, what are we doing here? But when I looked it up, that is a great backstory. They've hit it big. They've toured all over the U.S. They've been in Utah before. They've been to Europe. Their music's in TV shows. We can get into all of that. They've got they're a big deal. And you're doing this to raise money for your foundation that pays for after-school programs.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Your background as a college football coach, you saw a lot of kids that you wanted to recruit that you just couldn't because they got off track in elementary school. Yeah. And by the time they got to high school, they're like, you really can't be part of a team. Yeah. You're kind of all over the place.
Well, we did, we were able to take some prop kids back.
I remember.
And
you weren't against rolling the dice and taking a chance on a kid to see if it worked out.
Absolutely not.
But there were more kids beyond that you thought,
oh, yeah.
I'm a risk taker, and I'm not taking that risk.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there are a lot of kids. I mean, not everyone's a D1 athlete either. You just see other kids are like, there's no path for D1. I mean, once you go through the school and you know the principal and you know the athletic director and you know football coaches and you see other kids and you know they all need help and they can't all play football.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
They all need a chance.
Yeah.
To make decisions about what they want to do with their future.
Yeah.
And these after-school programs have enhanced that ability. And
instead of going home and being under the influence of who knows who's thinking about doing who knows what, none of which are a whole line of bad ideas.
Right.
We all know what they are. They're at school, and there's teachers staying after school, and there's some academic programs, some arts programs, some sports programs, and often there's also food involved for kids who are low income and struggling and may not be eating.
Yeah. So every principal designs
their own after-school program for their community.
And what their needs are. And so we're up to 42 schools now.
Ogden District, Salt Lake District, Jordan District, Canyons District, Murray, Granite, and for the first time giving money to the Tooele District.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you need more money. You got 7 more schools in Tooele.
Yeah, because we're just keep adding to the need. Mm-hmm. And I met with the 2 people from the Tooele School District yesterday, and we had lunch and just talked about their vision. And so they have 7 new principals.
Wow.
Out in Tooele at schools of the 8 we're going to sponsor out there. And so I'll meet with those people and then those teachers or principals in the next couple of weeks.
Being on your board, I have to say that I was a little stunned, as was everyone else in a meeting. And this meeting was probably, what year did you start the foundation? Was it 2018? 2017?
It's been 10 or 11 years.
10 or 11 years, okay. So this was probably about 2018 or 19, because it was in the early days of foundation, but you were expanding. and you'd raise more money, and you were going to expand to a school that shall remain nameless and a district that shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
And someone said, what about School X?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you had your hearing aids down. I don't know what the deal was, but you blurted out, Alex, you should have been in this meeting. You would have loved this. That principal is bleep.
Oh, yeah.
We're not doing it.
Well, yeah.
And the room is stunned. And I'm like, Mac, don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
Tell us what you really think.
Yeah.
Got some giggles, released some of the tension. So schools do have to meet a certain level.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't think the program's well run, and you've walked into 1 million schools recruiting 1 million kids over your 40 years of coaching or whatever it was, at Arizona, at Wisconsin, at Kentucky, at Utah, at Weber State, maybe at Long Beach State, maybe at San Jose State.
Yeah.
So you've been in a lot of places, and you can kind of, this one doesn't smell good.
Yeah, because
so you'll call them out.
Well, the principals have to be really engaged.
Yeah,
and the people who run the after-school program need to be excited about this opportunity. And in a couple of instances, it didn't feel right, and so we bypassed that school.
And just for the record, in that particular case, the district figured out what you figured out because that principal didn't last very long.
No. That's exactly
so
right.
just in case you're wondering how that all played out,
yeah.
Why are we going to that school? I thought Mac didn't like that school. That school has a new principal. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right. Well, now we're there. All right, so the concert's coming up Saturday, August 22nd. They can buy tickets at your website, ronmcbridefoundation.org.
Exactly.
Sandy Amphitheater, August 22nd. You can support the after-school programs. And if you're working in a district that isn't being helped by the Ron McBride Foundation, you can go to the website and find out about how to get support for your school district, and we can get that process rolling. All right, Mac, we promised people a little concert talk, but also a little football talk. So a little BYU and a little Utah while we're here as well, and we'll keep talking about the concert. Mac's going to be in studio here for a while. I've been reading preseason previews from the national people after the Big 12 media days and all that. You are, despite you're known as a Utah man, and you've been featured at multiple Utah games, awards, ovations washing over you. A lot of the guys who either played for you or coached for you or both have found their way onto the staff at BYU.
That's exactly right.
The irony of going down to BYU and seeing you in a golf cart at BYU practice, I mean, Lavelle Edwards is somewhere laughing his head off. I knew we'd get him one day.
Yeah.
So the question I constantly see about BYU, people are very complimentary about the team and the prospects, which I believe you are very upbeat on the team and the prospects. But the position group that they question most is the receiver group.
Right.
How much faith do you have? I mean, it's obvious it's an unproven group, right? I mean, there just isn't the returning production. They have a couple of returning guys. Maybe they're ready to step into a bigger role. They have transfers coming in. Maybe they're ready to step into a bigger role.
Right.
What's your level of expectation, your level of faith?
Well, I think that the couple of spring practices that I went to.
Let me just enjoy that.
Yeah. So
all right, go ahead.
I thought that the quarterback was great. The receivers, he made it look pretty easy. The quarterback did it on those couple of days, and he was hitting he was anticipating the receivers' breaks, and he was throwing the ball to a spot before they even made a break, and the timing appeared to be very good. I don't think the receivers are great. I think they're okay. I think they're good. I think they're solid, but I didn't see a guy that just really excited me. The starting running back I love. I think they're going to have a couple of really good runners. Their team speed, I think, is excellent, particularly on defense. I think they run extremely well.
Do you believe, just as a general, not specific to BYU's case, but just general in football, to what degree does the quarterback make the receivers, and to what degree do receivers make the quarterback?
Well, if you got some, oh my God, receivers, guys.
If you have Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Right.
If you got those guys, so those guys are going to make plays with the ball, and they can they can man coverage, they can blow by, and do things and make the big play. I don't see a guy like that down at this point, but I see guys who run good routes, guys that catch the ball, guys that know how to finish.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a speed guy out there that you say, oh my God, that guy's impossible to cover? But I think there's a good communication between the quarterback and the receivers. And I think the offensive line is this kid gets rid of the ball quickly, so he doesn't hold on to the football. So their timing as far as getting the ball out on time, him not holding on to the football, him knowing where to go with the ball, I think is very good.
So this is why quarterback is called the most important individual position in a team sport, is because you believe Bear Bachmeier's decision-making is going to make the offensive line better, so they don't have to hold their blocks as long.
Right.
And he's going to make the receivers better because he's going to correctly anticipate who's coming open. And receivers who might have a problem getting open will get the ball when they get open. None of those opportunities will be wasted.
Yeah. So now, I don't know how good the second guy is. He took a lot of reps when I was there. Yeah. But I think there was a big difference between the 1 and 2.
Well, that is generally the case in college football these days because the guys who are good enough to be starters generally aren't content with being a backup and can find some place that wants them. We're seeing quarterbacks on their third and fourth school.
Oh, absolutely,
So if they can get something out of Bourget, and he's an older, experienced kid. He's a redshirt senior, so.
Right. Well, yeah,
hopefully he's got enough reps that he can give him something.
He's been in the system. He knows it, But I think Bachmeier's kind of in his own league. I think the guy's a very special player.
And the defense, even with Jay Hill, who recruited Jay Hill at the U?
We did. I did.
That was during the Ronnie Mack era.
Yeah,
Kyle was your defensive coordinator.
Yeah. And it went down between us and BYU.
He was a Ricks College JC transfer.
Right.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they were BYU people. His parents and expect him to go to BYU, but it just it seemed like we probably paid more attention to him than they did, and we appeared. I think that we wanted him more than what they. He maybe wasn't a priority for them, and he was a priority for us.
So you build a relationship with Jay Hill. Obviously, you both coached at Weber State as head coaches.
Right.
You both take Weber State to the NCAA playoffs.
Right.
You've got multiple ties. How close are you staying in touch with him at Michigan?
Good. In fact, I just got a text from Jay last week, and basically he just said how much he appreciated me, whatever I did to help him along the way, and he's got a great story. His wife struggled with cancer, and she worked her way through it, and they got a great family, but I'm proud of Jay because he wasn't afraid to make moves. He was in his own comfort zone when he was at Utah, and he did an incredible job at Weber.
Yep.
And then, but he left Weber at the right time to take the
BYU job.
BYU job because he went down to BYU at the right time,
Mm-hmm.
and then he created a really good defensive scheme down there, and they recruited to the scheme, and then they brought Gary down there, and they brought Chad down there. You know, they did a lot to help themselves, and I think Gary's input, I think, is huge down there.
Yeah, Gary Anderson.
Yeah. And
that's another U guy. That's a big time U guy right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So,
He played. Were you the line coach when he played?
I was his.
You were his position coach.
I was his position coach, and Gary from day one, you knew that he was going to be a football coach because that's just what he was all about, and you kind of knew that he was going to do really good things, and then Chad was, when I took the Weber job, he's the first guy I got in contact with. He was over in Maui at that time, was the head coach at Baldwin High School, but he was the kind of personality that we needed at Weber for the players, because he was a personality player, and so Chad, and that was a hard thing for him because he was pretty well set with family and everything in Maui, but he's really done a great job with his career. He's been some really good places, and he's established himself.
Were you surprised when Jay Hill went to Michigan, or when you heard Kyle was going to Michigan? Did you assume Jay would follow? And you have a unique perspective on Michigan because part of your career you were coaching at Wisconsin.
Right.
You were on the staff at Wisconsin. Actually, you have a Michigan story you have to tell.
Oh,
it's just a great story. It's like one of the top 2 or 3 stories. So were you surprised, or did you think it was an automatic? That Michigan's such an opportunity?
Well, when I looked at who they were talking to,
mm-hmm.
and I spent that first spring that Harbaugh was there at Michigan, and I'm kind of looking at it, and then and Michigan's kind of set in their ways because they like Michigan people to be in charge of their program, but it just seemed to me that when you look at the people that they were interviewing and the people that could have success there, to me, Kyle was the right fit,
mm-hmm.
because of his background and what he's done, and the fact that he has his own people that he could bring.
So was Jay an automatic then in your mind?
I think that Jay was an important part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that I was a little bit surprised, but I think that for Jay's career, I think that was a good move because Kalani has a long-term contract at BYU. So I don't think that Kalani's going to be stepping down anytime soon. So I think that Jay went at the right time, and fortunately for everybody, Kyle was able to kind of got rid of some of the Michigan standbys and created his own people.
Yeah.
And then the people that he kept at Michigan were the obvious people that he should keep. So I think that he's done a good job. He got his two weight room guys. He's got his offensive line coach, his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator, defensive line coach. So, he bought a lot of people that are loyal to him, and then he took some players from Utah that are very loyal to him. So, and it looks like they've recruited extremely well. So,
so if I say Michigan goes 10-2, do you think that's? Am I going too high with that prediction?
No, I think that's about right.
Yeah.
I think that they'll be,
That is what I said in a newsroom debate, and I got to admit it was a little off the cuff.
But
I can't back off it now.
But
So I just wanted to hear.
But I think that just looking, I get these little blurbs on my phone every day about Michigan football.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the guys that they've recruited, the guys that have committed to them, and you look at they've basically, I think, covered their needs, and I think covered their future to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Michigan can be really hard on a non-Michigan guy. So
ask Rich Rodriguez, right?
Well, there's been a couple, but Kyle kind of fits what they need. And now, they let the athletic director go.
Yep.
So the new athletic director, Kyle won't be the guy that he hired. I mean,
yeah.
So then
that's all. That can get a little dicey if things aren't going well. It can get dicey fast.
Well, yeah, it can't because the new AD is going to come in with expectations,
mm-hmm.
and so and we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how far they go away from the Michigan family
mm-hmm.
to hire an AD. So traditionally, they'll hire somebody with huge Michigan ties.
The basketball coach is on a shorter leash than Kyle. I mean, he only has like a 2-year contract, whereas Kyle's got multi-year guaranteed, money locked in. I mean, he's signed into the next decade.
Well, Kyle's no dummy
he had leverage
as far as contracts and how the contract
mm-hmm.
reads and guarantees, and so he was what they needed at the time, and they weren't afraid to pay for it.
No shortage of money at Michigan. A little shortage of money for after-school programs in the state of Utah. We're actually seeing some cuts in government money going to after-school programs, so more need than ever for private donations and foundations. Oh, yeah. You can help support the Ron McBride Foundation. How many schools are you helping this year?
42.
42 schools spread across 1, 2, 5, 7 districts.
Yeah,
7 school districts.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to help out, all you have to do is go to the concert. The Head and the Heart, coming up the 22nd of August in Sandy. It'll be the Sandy
Amphitheater. Right.
Right. Get your tickets at Ron McBride Foundation, online at the ronmcbridefoundation.org.
And then we have a couple of backup bands,
Opening acts?
Yeah.
All right.
We have the Little Moon coming out of Springville, Utah, which is a folk rock band. And then we have Noah Rinker is another one, and these are both very good bands. They're excellent.
All right, RonMcBrideFoundation.org. We got to take a break. More football. We'll talk some Ute football with Matt coming up, and he's also got a Michigan story. Alex, you're not going to believe this. You're from a time, there's video and there's replays. You're not going to believe this story and the name dropping he's about to do. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
This is Utah's best coverage of the Utes, Cougars, Jazz, and Mammoth. Here we go. From the guys who have been there for all the biggest moments in Utah sports history. You're listening to DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ron McBride in studio, the Ron McBride Foundation. Supporting after-school programs at 42 schools across 7 districts, giving away almost $500,000 this year. Not quite. I think it's $461,000 is the targeted number. Yeah. Almost to the $500,000. This is a 3rd annual concert. It's at the Sandy Amphitheater, August 22nd. You can buy tickets to see the Head and the Heart and 2 opening bands. It's a whole show. The Head and the Heart from Seattle has tons of fans now. Most of the fans, is this true, on the board, like 30 people, and the board's pretty much split evenly male and female.
Right.
The women know way more about this band than the guys.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering if that's true of their whole fan base, or that's just the way it happens to break down in the room.
Well, it seems like, the Head and Heart's kind of an interesting because they have a really good following.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you ask the ladies, they all know the Head. Oh, yeah, you got the Head and the Heart. How'd you do that?
Okay.
Right? And then
and the guys are like, tell me more about the band.
Tell me more about the band.
Let me go to the Wikipedia page and get their backstory.
Yeah. And so
the point is for buying the tickets then, for the guys listening now, you're going, the Head and the Heart. Go home and ask your wife. Go ask your mom. Go ask your sisters. Go ask your kids, your daughters.
They're first of all, they're extremely talented.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to listen to a lot of their stuff now, and I really like what what they do. And the complementary bands really support what they do. So and actually they're very good, and they have a good following in Utah. So this should be moving this event to the amphitheater out there in Sandy, I think, is ideal because it's such a great venue, especially for the fans.
Yeah. It was scheduled originally for another venue, but now it's set for the Sandy Amphitheater, Saturday, August 22nd. There are VIP tickets available. There's general admission. They got some grass. You can bring a blanket there. Sit on the grass if you want, whatever you want. Go to the RonMcBrideFoundation.org. RonMcBrideFoundation.org. Get your tickets. All right, we only have a little time in this segment. We got to go to break, but we promised a football story because we are a sports station. There was a time you coached in the Big Ten. Kyle's now at Michigan, and now everything is, replays and from a million angles. In a different era and a different time, you were at Wisconsin. And tell the folks what happened. And, Alex, you're not going to believe this. This would never happen today. This is one of the 2 or 3 craziest stories I've heard in football. Go ahead and set the situation. So you're playing Michigan. Are you at home or are you on the road?
We're at home.
Okay.
And so to trace back on the story, so the first thing I asked when I went to Wisconsin, I said, well, who are we sending to the officials meeting, with to support, to know what the officials are thinking about.
Yep.
And then they said, no, it's a waste of time because Bo hired all the officials.
What?
I said, what do you mean Bo? What do you mean Bo hired all the? Yeah, because it's no use sending somebody because they're all the officials.
Bo Schembechler, Michigan legend.
Yeah, they're all Bo's guys. So then we're playing Michigan at Wisconsin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Opening kickoff. Their guy misses the kick, and stubs it. We got the ball like on the 45-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Official throws his flag, comes over to Dave McClain, our coach, and says, Bo wants to take it over.
And Bo got a do-over.
Yeah, a do-over. Yeah.
He got a do-over, right? Straight off the playground. It's a do-over.
Yeah, Bo wants to take it over. I said, who wants to take it over? Bo. I said, Bo's not running the show here. You're an official. So that obviously they let Bo take it over.
And they kicked off again.
And
you didn't get as good a field position.
No, instead we're on the 20-yard line. So we give up about 35 yards in field position because Bo wanted to take it over.
The only thing I've heard that's crazier than that is that game where the referees completely botched the number of downs, counting the downs. The Colorado-Missouri game, I think it was 1990.
Yeah.
And Colorado's fighting for a national title, and they get a 5th down.
Yeah.
Because the guy doing the thing is too excited and doesn't flip the thing over on the down, and then they argue about it, and none of the refs were counting.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing.
Well, yeah.
Things that wouldn't happen now. They'd have it straightened out now. All right, we're going to take a break. More with Mac. We're going to talk some Ute football next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Over 2 decades of sports radio dominance in Utah. My favorite. This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's Win Ticket Wednesday. We already gave away tickets to Post Malone. It was hilarious to watch Alex answer the phones in there. He couldn't produce the show for a few minutes as the phone banks just exploded over the Post Malone Jelly Roll Carter Faith tickets, Rice-Eccles Stadium, July 28th. On sale now at livenation.com. We also have tickets to see the Utah Royals. They're playing the Washington Spirit July 29th. That is 1 week from today at America First Field. It's a 7 o'clock game. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE, receives a 5-pack of tickets to see the Royals and the Spirit. So call right now. Utah football coach Ron McBride, former Utah football coach Ron McBride, is in studio right now talking football and selling concert tickets. His foundation provides over $461,000 to be exact, $461,000 to support after-school programs at 42 schools spread across 7 districts. And if you want your school to get involved, if your school needs some help, go to the ronmcbridefoundation.org and you can find out where to apply for grants, ronmcbridefoundation.org. You can also go to ronmcbridefoundation.org and you can buy tickets to see the band The Head and the Heart, part of a 3-band show coming up next month at the Sandy Amphitheater, Saturday, August 22nd.
Yes.
Mac's worried I'm not going to get the date out. He's like, he better get the date out. Saturday, August 22nd, Sandy Amphitheater. Buy your tickets online at ronmcbridefoundation.org. The Head and the Heart out of Seattle, and indie rock, Rivers and Roads is probably their most popular song, and it's been all over TV. They used it in How I Met Your Mother. They used it in Chuck, New Girl, New Amsterdam, on down the line.
Yeah.
So they are multimedia stars. They are pop culture stars.
Yeah, pop
You hear that?
culture.
I was surprised this. The first season of episode 2 of BYU TV's Audio Files centered on the band and featured live performances of Winter Song, Sounds Like Hallelujah, and Let's Be Still was in a 2015 TV commercial for Corona.
Yeah.
BYU TV, Corona.
Yeah.
What do they have in common? The Head and the Heart.
The Head
That's
and
what
the
they have in
Heart,
common.
yes.
Okay. They're everywhere. All right, so get your tickets there. I want to talk Utah football with you. We talked with you a couple months ago. You were in studio then. And at that point, I asked you about the Utes and the defensive line. And you said 2 good run-stopping guys in the middle at defensive tackle. And you thought they had 1 elite pass rusher. Now, under Kyle Whittingham, typically Kyle would like 3 players for the 2 defensive tackle spots, rotate guys, keep them fresh. They would like 3 pass rushers for the 2 spots, rotate and keep them fresh.
Right.
There were years they had an embarrassment of riches, and there would be a 7th or 8th defensive lineman who could play. You made the point then, hey, it's spring ball. There's some other guys. They could be good players, but how much do they come along? How fast do they come along?
Right.
So let's see.
Yeah.
Well, nobody wants to see. Everybody wants to know it's going to be great. And I want to know right now it's going to be – I mean, obviously we're still not quite to summer camp here. We're a week and a half away or whatever. Do you feel any differently about what you've seen or what you've heard from the defensive line? Or is that kind of where things sit for you?
I think the I think everything really depends on the D line. I think I think there's a lot of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kafusi has to have a big year, and then Chris Malfala's nephew needs to have a big year, and then they need to have a 3rd and 4th guy that can fill in. I think the Ross kid will be possibly one. So I don't know what the depth looks like with the inside guys and the quality. I do like one of the DNs. I think is really good, a very good player. And then I'm not sure who the other one is going to be off of spring, but I think that group is key.
Mm-hmm.
They have two really good D-line coaches in Luther and Inoki. So I think that they're both really good teachers, and I think they'll develop those guys. I like their linebackers, and I like their back-end guys. I think their back-end guys are really good. Their man coverage guys, I think, are very good, very athletic. I like that group.
If the D-line isn't great, how much can they help them out? I mean, Morgan, when he's defensive coordinator, he's not that far away, right? he's a head coach. He's just a couple steps over on the sideline. How much he was always famous for bringing blitzes, bringing exotic blitzes, making the team hard to block. If the D-line isn't what they're used to having, how much of that can they account for and adjust for with these blitzes, and how much are they really playing with fire doing that? Because inevitably, when you take a guy from one spot, you're leaving another spot open.
Well, if you're moving a lot, where you're slanting, moving, you got to make sure that you don't expose a gap. So, for instance, if the idea in the front is you want to be able to eat up two blockers to free the linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So but if you move a lot and the offensive line on the opposite side is well taught, you can pick up movement. Just by step, let him go to where he's running, and then wash him, and
use his momentum against him when you say wash him. Basically, just keep blocking him in that direction and take him out.
And that opens and exposes a huge gap. And so what you worry about is if you got a really good offensive line coach, he'll say, okay, they're going to slant, they're going to move. Here's the kind of slants they have, and there's a different type of slants from a defensive front. You can, a penetrating slant, a run slant, depending on what you're trying to do. But the big thing is those inside two guys can't get washed. And so if they get washed, then that means that the linebacker's going to get picked up. So what you got is the matchup is pretty good and the gap is exposed. So what you can't do is you can't expose gaps. And you got to be able to hold, you got to be able to hold your gap.
That is a big part of how that Kansas State game at the end of last year started going sideways and why it ended up 51-47. I mean, they pulled it out, but they gave up a stunning number of rushing yards. There were a lot of big plays.
Well, a lot of the like people running just inside zone, inside trap, and people were making a ton of yards just off the inside zone stuff. Yeah.
When you took over as head coach, how big an adjustment was it, and how long before you felt you were really in command? Because the start of your head coaching, the talent wasn't good enough.
No.
Now, when you look at Bronco Mendenhall and Kyle Whittingham, when they were a coach for the first time, and this all leads into, obviously, Morgan being a head coach for the first time, the talent was pretty good at BYU.
Right.
The talent was a little hit and miss at Utah.
Right.
But even as they brought the talent up, because so many guys left after Urban's year, there were guys leaving early, there were a lot of seniors, so there was just a lot of talent gone. But Kyle started out 16-13 in his first 29 games over 2 years and a month. And Bronco was 6-6 his first season, and then just started rolling out double-digit wins his second season.
Right.
And both players, Bronco had a memorable quote, "I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't." Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing, right? Kyle's memorable quote after the first game, I think they won it. They beat Air Force, and he opens a postgame with, "Man, those games are really long." Well, the games are as long as they've ever been, but you were only responsible for the defensive snaps.
Right.
Now you're suddenly responsible for special team snaps and the offensive snaps. So, yeah, I bet, you're dialed in and focused. So both guys in their own way admitted, hey, I got a lot to learn here. And then you could tell from their record early on they had a lot to learn. I don't know if you felt that the same when you first started, and what have all of your experiences mean for where we should set our expectations for more. And I should throw Kalani in this also. Kalani's first 4 years, 27 wins, 25 losses.
Yeah.
Now, last 6 years, he's got 4 double-digit win seasons, and the 2 years he didn't get to 10 wins, he had quarterback injuries.
Well,
that's the only thing derailing Kalani now. So all these people have had something to learn early on. I wondered if Morgan does, and I wonder what your experience was and if you were feeling the same thing.
Well, I think when I took this program, and I figured that I was going to be here for a while, and so we had a plan, and we weren't going to really be in my third year. We would be productive. So I figured we want to build a defense first, then and have an offense that didn't turn the ball over, pretty conservative. And then the second year, we were going to rebuild start rebuilding the offense. The third year, we should be able to win. And so we stayed with that, and we did. So we built a program based on defense to begin with. So every good player went to the defensive side of the ball, and then we made sure that we had, we started recruiting great tailbacks and physical offensive linemen, and quarterbacks that could manage the offense. And then as we progressed into our, I think it was our third year or fourth year, our first bowl game, and then we were kind of on our way. Then we moved from, the lower half to the upper half.
Yeah.
And so then we were.
So do you think Morgan is set up to be in the upper quarter of the league, maybe the conference title game, are 10 wins in play, or like Kalani, like Kyle, like Bronco, are going to be hard lessons to learn, and you just got to endure a little bit of a bumpy road before you get to where you want to be?
Well, I think that they're pretty stable, and I don't think it's a rebuild at any point at Michigan. I think it's a continuous.
Yeah, at Michigan. But what about for Morgan Scalley at Utah?
Yeah, well, Scalley, I think that there are good enough players in place because they got the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
They got the best wide receiver group they've had. So
look at you go, stealing my next question. The wide receivers under you. You had NFL wide receivers playing in the WAC.
Right.
And Urban obviously had wide receivers and they could throw the ball all over the place. And the Sugar Bowl team, Kyle early on had wide receivers. The Sugar Bowl team had a good group of receivers.
Right.
But after the Sugar Bowl, they never really recaptured it. And there were some really lean years for the wide receiver position.
Right.
Is that going to be different under Morgan? Because he's going straight to the transfer portal.
Well, so they took the best receiver out of San Jose State.
Mm-hmm.
They took the best receiver from Utah State. They took the best receiver from Mississippi State. So they got 3 quality receivers that transferred in there. So they've got some depth and quality and proven guys at wide receiver. And they have that tight end slot guy.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 4 or 5 guys at that position that are all look the same to me. They're all the 6'3", 235-pound guys that can catch the ball in traffic. And so I think their receiving core is really good. And both quarterbacks are excellent. The Dampier kid's really interesting because if you don't protect the edges against him, he's going to escape, and he's going to make a play. And he's a smart kid. And I think the left-handed kid is special.
Ficklin.
Yeah. I think Ficklin's future is...
Well, you said they have the quarterbacks back, and you're on a roll, so I let you go. But it's just so rare to be able to use the plural at that position.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
well, I think the biggest thing is Ficklin and the starter are really good friends. And I think they wanted to stay together. Because I know that Michigan went after Ficklin and offered him a considerable package. And he said no. And he stayed at Utah. And so just having those 2 guys, and I think they recruited a 3rd guy out of Texas that I think is going to be a very good player, and he fits the scheme. So they'll have, it looks like, unless these guys go to the portal or whatever, but it looks like they're pretty stable at that position. And McGivern, who's the coordinator, I think is very good, very smart guy. And he was my coordinator at Weber, and then he was at Oregon State with Gary, and so I got a chance to work with him again up there. And he's just he's an incredible football mind, and he's a very good football coach. And I think the having Bumpus with the wide receivers is a plus. Having Alex and Jordan coaching the offensive line, they have a very good offensive staff. And then the guy that coaches the tight end, that slot guy, is Wells' brother, who was the head coach up at Utah State, and then he was at Texas Tech, but it's his brother, and he's a very good football coach. So they've got their coaches are really good at this positions.
Last thing before we let you go here, Weber State makes the unusual move. And you're a former Weber State coach, and Jay Hill played for you, and he's a former Weber State head coach, so I know you have your eyes on the program, and you're very invested in the high school scene. We really haven't talked about that, but Mac, you're 87 years old, and you're working out kids on the weekend. You're unreal, man.
Well, it's insane. Yeah, it's kind of insanity.
Yeah. But anyway, so Corner Canyon has a great run.
Right.
They have that's a fantastic decade of football. And Weber State makes the bold move, and he's got roots, and we've gone through this in the show before about he's got roots, offensively going back, like one of the cutting-edge minds, and they run cutting-edge stuff at Corner Canyon. And now they're going to do it at Weber State. What'd you think of the hire? How's that going to go?
I think he's a great hire, and he was. It was kind of time for him, and his pluses. He understands the importance of the head coach at Weber understanding Utah high school football is extremely important.
Well,
because
Eric Kerr coached at Jordan before he coached at Corner Canyon, so
exactly. Well,
he's got a ton of high school experience.
So Kerr knows the high school players. He knows he has a good reputation, obviously, of developing quarterbacks, developing the passing game. So I think that he was a great hire, not a good hire. I think he's a great hire, and I mean, it's the right time for him because he was ready. So I understand that from their spring practice, evidently, from what I hear, at times it didn't go as well as they thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
And that they've got to fill some holes, and so I'm not sure where they're at with the whole process.
Well, Jay Hill didn't win right away at Weber State either.
No, but Jay, first of all, Jay, the guy who came in after I left, they really took a huge minus because the program was built for success, and they took it all the way back to ground zero. And then Jay took it; he had to rebuild it again. And he knew where to go. He knew what players to get, and he did. He recruited extremely well.
He knew the Utah high school scene also.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Mac. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Okay, let's get.
I hope you get some fans out there to see the head and the heart.
Well, let's get the head and the heart moving, and I just want all my foundation people to know how much I appreciate them and what a great job that they're doing, and MJ and that whole crew is
MJ runs the events.
Yeah. So we got MJ, we got Joanne, we got a whole group of people, and
those of you who wonder what happened to Raleigh and Wells from the Salt Lake Tribune back in the day, Joanne Wells.
Yeah, Joanne.
Joanne's now running Mac's executive director for your foundation.
Yeah, she
and in between, she taught at Brighton High School. So, she's done a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah, she's really smart, really efficient. We just added a lot. We got so.
The Ron McBride Foundation gives away $461,000 this year to 42 schools across 7 districts to support after-school programs. If you want your school or your district to get involved, to get some grants and get some support, go online to the ronmcbridefoundation.org for more information. And if you want to support those after-school programs, all you got to do is go to a concert, buy some tickets.
Well, I think the ticket sales is key, and we'd like to see everybody there. And we do have 3 fantastic bands, with the Head and the Heart being the
headliner.
Headliner. And the more I learn about these people, the more excited I am about that. I know that I was in Redondo Beach when they had the big thing down there, and talking to some of the artists down there. I said, well, I said, we're thinking about getting the Head and the Heart for our. If you can get them, you would be hitting a gold mine. I said, and then so tell me about it. And so the different band members, were playing down there, and I'd rap with them on the side, and I said, yeah, if you can get those guys. I said, because they're so entertaining, they're so good, they're so traditional, that you're going to be really lucky if you can get them. So, and I think that Gabe has done a great job of putting that all together, and now we just need to get our tickets taken care of, and sponsorships taken care of, and make sure we have a profitable event.
The Head and the Heart, Saturday, August 22nd, Sandy Amphitheater. Tickets online at the Ron McBride Foundation.org to support after-school programs at school districts up and down the Wasatch Front and now in the Tooele District as well. Mac, thanks for coming in, talking a little Michigan, Weber State, BYU, and Utah football. We appreciate it.
Okay, bro.
All right. RonMcBrideFoundation.org. Saturday, August 22nd, The Head and the Heart. We're back with everything you missed in this show next. Stay with us.
For all of you less motivated listeners, it's time for your 9 o'clock. Where the heck have you been headlines?
Where you at?
With DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Radio headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 1-855-TRAJAN1, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Stuff we've been talking about this morning. Rain out, man. Red Sox couldn't make it 14 in a row. Didn't get to play the Orioles yesterday. Well, there you go. If you haven't seen the base running blunder by the Dodgers and Phillies, and you coach a travel ball team, a little league team, whatever, or you just want to share your kids a good laugh. I don't know what the Phillies thought they were doing on the base pass, but JT Realmuto, who's a really good catcher, has been for a long time, that was not his finest moment. Once you start running backwards on the base pass, when you're at third base trying to get back to second, bad things are happening. Ran themselves right out of the game in the ninth inning. We talked a little bit about the World Cup, 61.5 million viewers, phenomenal numbers for Fox and Telemundo combined. And the lesson there for Utah, BYU, and the Big 12, you got to get on over-the-air TV. You got to be everywhere. That number's huge because they were on 2 networks. It's the reason that ESPN puts a college football title game on multiple networks. Be more places. Viewers don't come find you. It's the craziest thing. Viewers, listeners, the audience, they are where they are, and they really, honestly, you're not that important. They can't be bothered to find you. It's why this show is on the radio. It's why this show is podcast. It's why this show is streamed. It's why this show is... Oh, I can't talk about that yet. Oh, there'll be a fourth thing. We'll tell you about it later.
Keep teasing it.
Okay, so... I'm brave. I'm brave on Nate's at Lake Powell. You got to be everywhere. And I think for the Big 12, ABC on Friday nights, you're playing on ESPN, you got to talk to them. And honestly, nobody's watching their prime time. I've thought this for 5 years. Nobody's watching prime time anymore. Certainly not on Friday night, but really not many nights of the week. It's just tough. Maybe on Sundays when you have the NFL for a lead-in. But even then, the Sunday night NFL game beats everything else. The best stuff on primetime TV right now, the best rated stuff is sports. So you got to find a way to get over the air. That's why the SEC's getting these huge numbers. They're playing 3 games on ABC every week. And when you're playing on ESPN at 8:30 Mountain, 10:30 Eastern, you have a really good game and you get 2.5 million viewers, 3 million viewers. That's a great number. But it's 3 million. In college football games, they're looking for 4, 5, and 6 million. How do you get there? Over the air on Friday night. That Texas Tech Houston. Over the air, baby. That's where it's at. And you can move some other games. And if you can't get the whole schedule, maybe a couple games at the start of the season. Nobody's watching primetime TV on the Friday of Labor Day weekend. Come on. Come on, ABC. The commissioners just got to keep hammering on them. Just keep hammering on them. Real Salt Lake back in action tonight. Yeah, I'll be back here at 8:30 to call that game. LAFC and RSL. The World Cup is over, and RSL with multiple injuries. 3 guys out injured. Aiden Hersakani broke a toe. Justin Glad's been sidelined for a while. Emeka Anelli's sidelined for a while. They're out longer. That's 10% of the roster already gone, and they've got a couple open spots, I think. And they play 10 times in the next 40 days. Assuming they don't advance in the League's Cup, that could be more if they keep advancing. So, a little light on players, a little heavy on the schedule. That could end up being a problem. We'll see how that plays out. CBS Sports with a story out. We talked about this today. 4 Big 12 teams among the top 10 easiest schedules in the Power 4. And mostly it's contenders. Texas Tech, number 2. K-State 3. BYU 7. Houston 9. All easy schedules. There's some opinion drawn in this, but there's also just the cold hard facts. 3 of those 4 teams, not BYU, but the other ones, Houston, K-State, and Texas Tech, are all playing Oregon State as their big non-conference game. Yeah, not a big non-conference game. And Houston doesn't have to play BYU. Texas Tech doesn't have to play BYU or Utah. And K-State, I don't know who K-State paid off. K-State plays Washington State for their big non-conference game and doesn't play Texas Tech, doesn't play BYU, and doesn't play Utah. K-State, man, no excuses. We can sit here and argue about some of these schedules and how hard they are. We can't argue about K-State. That's a cupcake schedule, man. For the comments on BYU is that the Cougars' 2026 schedule is the kind of draw Power 4 contenders beg for behind closed doors. BYU gets enough brand value to matter. Notre Dame and Utah move the needle. But they don't face the weekly meat grinder other teams are staring down. No K-State, no Texas Tech, no Oklahoma State, no Houston. So breaks there for BYU. The problem here is the Big 12 doesn't get any credit for Arizona and TCU being good teams. And we'll see how it plays out. But on paper, they're coming off 9-win seasons. Arizona's got their coach and their quarterback back. Coming off a 9-win season, that'll be pretty good. TCU, program's been up and down. They've had some coaching changes. But you look at the last 15 years, they've been really good. Fiesta Bowl, a Rose Bowl win over Wisconsin, a college football playoff, Final Four. It was a 4-team era, and they beat Michigan in a crazy shootout and then got destroyed by Georgia in the title game. They got a pretty good resume, and they come out of a 9-win season, and they got Texas talent. I mean, they're sitting in Fort Worth right in the middle of the Metroplex, access to just tons of players, but no real recognition that they're good and they're tough, and we'll see if they back it up. All right, that's some of what we have been talking about this morning. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll get you up to date on everything you've been commenting. Oh, one more story we talked about. And 9 o'clock listeners have to know this, Alex. We'll just have to be a little later to break. The Miami Heat posted a link that said they got a press conference with LeBron on July 27th. Now, that is either A, a massive mistake, and they're getting LeBron, or B, an awesome April Fool's joke, or C, you just can't write this stuff, and I love it. And D, the 27th, come on, LeBron. He's not doing it as a Friday news dump. Either he does it later today or tomorrow, or does hold all the way through the weekend, and it is going to be the 27th on Monday.
According to ESPN, they were told that the social media department was just preparing for the possibility of LeBron James.
The 27th is very specific. Preparing for the possibility of LeBron. 100% believe it. You should. The date is a little too specific. And now they have to move it. And I suggest they move it to today. And no one's going to listen to me, though. So fine. I really don't want him to go to Miami. I really want him to go to Philly or Cleveland. I think I would just enjoy those stories. Fine, whatever. And there's already stories out there. The Lakers, between money and roster spots, there are all these thoughts about they've got to make moves. What are they going to do? And everybody's already anticipating Bronny for a second-round pick to wherever LeBron signs. And people say, that's not automatic. Yeah, nobody's saying it isn't happening. He definitely will not rejoin his father, said no one. All right, we'll see how that all plays out. All right, DJ and PK, your feedback next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
And now, enough of us. It's time to hear from you. From all your texts, tweets, and posts. This is the best feedback of the day.
Woo! Oh, I was there. It's the best game of my life.
With DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it is time for your feedback. What do you think about the show, all the topics? Do you think a move out of the Big 12 is required for BYU and Utah to play big-time football? This topic has been carrying the week. DB. Not to play big-time football. They already do that. But to keep up with the biggest brands? Yes. Can they keep up with the biggest brands in the best years? Are there always going to be 4 or 5 teams out there that they just can't quite hang with? A couple Rose Bowls suggest their problems. Now, they had quarterback injuries in both Rose Bowls, so there is that. And they went into the Ohio State game shorthanded defensively. They're 3-1 against Michigan. But is that kind of stuff going to be possible going forward as the finances widen? So I get DB's point. To think you're going to be dominant, pretty big risk. There's very little wiggle room in the teams that are dominant. But at the same time, you've beaten Alabama, you've taken down Michigan 3 times, beaten some pretty big brands. And the Cougars are that rare team that did get a national title. Most of the teams, Clemson had their moment, and they did have a moment 40 years ago. But mostly it's the usual suspects. Ohio State and Michigan, Alabama, Oklahoma. We know who you are. Notre Dame, here we go. Indiana, different era. Every once in a while, somebody breaks through. But to keep up with the biggest brands, not necessarily dominate them. See, that's the thing. Can you keep up with them? NBA offseason grades for every team in the West. The Jazz were given a B+, second best in the West, behind the Clippers, who might have their grade ripped away from them if that Kawhi Leonard deal doesn't go through or goes through in a different form. Did the Jazz really have the best summer? There are some people who love that Walker Kessler trade. Is it going to cost them a few wins this year? Yes, it is. But there was always going to be a financial crisis, and guys are going to have to be moved. So they move him now. People really love what they got in return. Brian says, what I saw to start the Summer League was at least hopeful. It's like it was a blackout in Vegas. Even Googling the Jazz homepage, there wasn't anything on it. The games went to streaming, and they sat a lot of people. I mean, that was the thing. The first game down in Vegas, guys played. But then pretty quickly, it was hit and miss. And for some guys, it was just all miss. Ace Bailey barely played. And, them back issues, and it's Summer League and, whatever. And Peterson and Cody Williams were in and out of the lineup. In the end, I did see one summary that said, Peterson didn't really answer the questions in college, and, there's still availability. And how many guys play more than 5 Summer League games? See, a lot of teams don't have, and some teams do go to that California Summer League, and obviously there's 4 teams playing here in Salt Lake. But because he'd already played here, which I would prefer they prioritize a couple games here because the fans are here and they want to see him. And it's 3 games in 4 days, so they sat him once. They didn't want to play all 3. I get that. But that limited how much he's going to play in Vegas. So they ended up playing 5 Summer League games. That's plenty. That's enough. It's just the ball handling stuff. Is he really going to be able to handle the ball in the NBA? Can he start the offense? I wonder if he's coming off the bench. And honestly, I wonder if Ace will come off the bench too and put a veteran in the lineup. And I've been wondering that. And I think I've heard Ben Anderson talk about it. He's wondering the same thing. And let those guys come out and play. They've got to balance out some of the offensive firepower. Let them come off of the bench unit, get their shots, and play against the other team's bench unit most nights. A little easier as they figure things out in their first and second year in the NBA. We'll see how that goes. DJ and PK, we got to go now. Coming up next, Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe. Stay with us.
Okay, show's over. Gotta run.
So, this is goodbye then.
I think we should meet again.
See you soon.
I don't need the details. Bye.